Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Bitcoin Law Review with your host, Tone Vase. This is going to be one amazing show. I don't want to waste any time talking about any background info. We're bringing in our guests right now. Let's do a very quick intro. Manny, what's new in your world, man? And go for it.
Hey, great. Thanks so much, Tone. Hey, everyone. I'm Manny Alejandro. I'm an attorney in private practice in New York, and I focus on capital markets and blockchain technology. So a lot going on in the space. Trying to keep up with the frenetic pace of all the changes that are out there. And I'm excited about joining the show today. And thanks so much for having me, Tone. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Bill, what's up in your world?
Oh, there's so many things, and yet nothing at the same time that's interesting to you guys. Bill Restis Law Firm in San Diego. I specialize in the intersection of the blockchain and securities law.
Sasha, let's head over to you.
Hi, thanks, Tone. Sasha Hodder with DLT Law Group. This past week, it seems like a lot of companies asking for that letter to get on the exchanges saying that they're not a security. So coming across, a lot of issues around if they've done an ICO, can they become sufficiently decentralized to be listed on one of our, typical exchanges that aren't registered as a national securities exchange. So really exploring that issue.
All right, very cool. And finally, Jason, tell us what's up. We got a nice Texas flag in the background. You got a guitar, and what is that machine next to you?
It's just a 3D printer, Tone. And normally, was a data engineer. I'm way out of practice now. Became a lawyer, as a lot of you know, and focused on securities law. And around 2009, my data world and my law world merged, and I was doing basically Bitcoin and securities law, and have been for quite a while. But today, near and dear to my heart, is the Second Amendment. And there's been a lot of talk about 3D printing in the Second Amendment. And so today I'm running a little bit of an experiment with my...
Oh, did we lose him? did we just get cut off? Anybody else on?
Oh, well, no, I'm here. It just says...
your internet froze there for a second. Just as you were about to say what you were printing, it got like frozen.
Sorry about that. I maybe it's the government intervening. I don't know. Today I am focusing on the Second Amendment and technology. And here, right in my own home, I am printing something that may or may not be controversial and related to the Second Amendment.
All right. Speaking of which, I just got back from Chicago, got some awesome new clothes everyone always wanted. Give you more info on these things later. Let's go right into our first story. And this might explain what Jason is doing with his 3D printer. I'm going to go ahead and play this video that just came out and is already slowly going viral.
The website of the company they did this agreement with specifically says their goal in the Second Amendment is to expand it.
And we sued them to stop them from publishing codes online.
Here's the thing: a lot of those specs are already online.
Yeah, but you can make it illegal to possess them, and we wouldn't know about it. Already, the damage has been done. But it may already be too late to stop this.
And as far as I'm concerned, federal officials should be showing up to that building right now. I placed the design files for the AR-15 into the public domain. July 27th, 2018. Gone. I committed these files to the Commons under a license from the U.S. Department of State. Now 21 states would sue me across this country. So eager to kill your Second Amendment that they would take the first. Rifleman, this fight is yours. It's time to muster. I'm going to make them kill your internet. These states. They can only see ghosts. You don't get to escape me. You get to vote me out. I guess at last it comes down to what this is. Who am I? What are we? We call ourselves defense distributors. We're a defense contractor. We don't contract with the state. We contract with the public. So I'd like to come to terms. If you will fund this fight for me, I will offer 2 new contracts to you. Your support is tax deductible. Bitcoin.com is offered to match funds 1-to-1. By they would take your birthright. Shall I give it to you? I went to Vanderbilt's funeral. I didn't see you. Show me you're there. The unlimited power of the sword is in the hands of the people. This is a hard sign to live on. And you come to know it.
All right, guys. So that was the video. I'm gonna end. Actually, I'm gonna exit this. And there was also an article.
Intense, Tone. That was intense.
Yeah, there was also an article in the Washington Times talking about the challenges of regulating 3D printer guns. All of these links are in this video's description. And actually, I'm gonna end screen share right here. And before we talk about it, I wanna bring on a special guest just for this episode. So Cody, are you with us?
Hey, Tone, can you see me?
Yep, there he is. So we were able to get Cody Wilson. Hey, thanks for jumping on last minute. I want to put you on the big screen and ask you first. During that video, when I was playing it right before we started, there was like it muted itself for like a few seconds. And there was this, you know, the blur out rectangle right in the middle of it. What's that all about?
Yeah, over the weekend, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, who were states suing me in these actions, threatened me basically with contempt for basically telling other people to host the files and to help me out that way, because I'm under a court order to not host, or I guess tell other people to host the files. So it shows you like the problems of a regime like this, where you want to control guns so badly that not only do you have to control access to the data of the guns, you have to control people's speech about access to the data to the guns. The chain just goes on and on.
All right, I'm going to open the floor to our esteemed panel of lawyers here. Anything you guys want to ask Cody? Somebody?
I mean, I'm dying to jump in.
You're unmuted, guys.
I don't want to dominate the conversation. You know, Cody. First of all, what's your background? What's your education? Engineering, or I mean, you're out there providing engineering specs for printing guns. What qualifications do you have?
None, sir. No credentials or qualifications. Bring me teach. But I did teach myself a few things, and here we are. So we have a manufacturing company in Austin, Texas. Maybe I have no qualifications to have that company, but over the years we decided to do it. You know?
It's fine so long as you've got the experts that are working with you and you're relying on them. That's fine.
Don't know that we have them either, but we.
I don't know what you can and can't talk about based on the numerous court orders that you're up against. But can you talk about the modeling process of? Let's just start with like the 380, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys do 3D imaging, laser imaging of all of the parts taken apart, and then from there created the STL files, or how did that go?
It was very like crude. It was very trial and error. Okay, like anything really. So the primary question we had in the beginning was, what kind of ballistic chamber can you make in printed materials that can survive any type of commercial ammunition? And at first our thinking was maybe something like, 22 ammunition, or certain kinds of lower caliber shotgun shells. And we were wrong. We were wrong about all that. And it just turns out that 380 and barrels of certain thicknesses, this was some of the first ammunition that worked in a printed barrel. So we just built the gun around the different first components that worked.
Nice. I'm digging through my desk right now because I'm fairly certain I have some sort of ammunition in here. Not to give away too much, but I am an avid gun owner.
Never admit it.
Right. Well, you know, I'm prior service Air Force. Not that anybody in the Air Force ever shoots weapons, but you know, I'm a big fan. One of the things that's always intrigued me about this type of solution is how it presents, you know, regulatory challenges. Obviously, something like this, tiny guns that are undetectable in security, has to just frighten the ever-loving shit out of the government, right? TSA, airplanes, any kind of inspections. Have any of those arguments come up in these court orders against you?
Yeah, like we just got a court order like 15 minutes ago. I know you guys haven't had a chance to review it. This is a preliminary injunction in the state of Washington. And that's what the judge, look, my settlement with the State Department and the standing of these states, like it prevents them from getting this relief, but he issues the relief anyway. And in his order, he says, the State Department didn't consider the unique threat of printed guns for the reasons that you cited, though that they seem to present some type of unique security risk or something. Of course, an actual constitutional reading of things is that Congress has had many opportunities to address this threat. And so is the executive, and they've declined. They've passed certain laws, like in the 80s, it says, you know, it's illegal for you to have an all plastic gun. So all of this has been addressed, but you know, the concern is enough to get any type of Ninth Circuit judge to create manifest injustice.
So you said in the state of Washington and Ninth Circuit. So is that federal court in Washington, or was that a state court judge in Washington?
That's right. That's a federal judge there. The states have come in asking for relief against the decision of the president, you know, and a settlement with me made at the end of July. So they come in representing their quote unquote sovereign interests and pretend that allowing gun plans to be online, you know, violates all state gun laws or something. And this is now my fight, apparently.
Oh, no, I'm curious, and I wanted, this is Bill Cody. I'm nice to meet you. I don't know really much about this. The first thing I want to say is, you know, obviously anything that you say on this interview is people are going to try to use it against you. So choose your words very carefully. But I'm curious why you did this. Take us back to the beginning.
Did what? Printing guns and putting them online?
Yeah, printing guns and putting them online. What was the underlying purpose?
For me, it's like back in 2011, 2012, I was inspired by WikiLeaks, right? And before I had all this complex crypto anarchist, you know, like discourse that I discovered, you know, and helped me meet people like in Bitcoin and stuff. Before I knew about any of that, I just had this instinct that like WikiLeaks and internet projects like that were more important than traditional political process. Like no matter how much you might love the Second Amendment, there's no way that you were going to reasonably expand it. There was no way that you could have the hope of expanding it. Like in 2011, 2012, you could fight your whole life and run for Congress, do whatever you want, even try to become a Supreme Court justice. It doesn't mean that you had a chance of federally expanding it. But my insight was that the internet basically would allow a place for the complete translation of the American gun culture. Like to some degree, if you could download the 3D design files for any type of, you know, 20th century small arm, this was a guarantee. No matter what regime of law, no matter where in the world, you'd be able to at least begin to make a gun. This is uncensorable, you know. So I began with that insight, and I simply completed a task of showing a downloadable and reproducible gun on one device.
Well, I think that that's interesting because a lot of the constitutional issues that we're dealing with seem to be addressed by these network-centric solutions we have, whether it's blockchains or putting things on the internet. If you're looking for like protection of the Second Amendment, you can't do it with this hierarchical pyramid scheme that we have now. I mean, the flow of information comes from the top to the bottom. We're seeing that in the First Amendment issues that are coming up with the Google and Facebook and all of this. If you have a central point, then you can't protect these rights. And I think that it's really actually apropos to a lot of things that are going on in our culture right now with what you're trying to do.
Well, thanks. I discovered the word decentralized, when I began this project, and when I got invited to do some Bitcoin stuff in 2012. And my whole exposure to Bitcoin is because of this project, and because other payments processors were immediately no longer able to support me or willing to. And my entire, career in alternative politics is because of this stuff, and my life is immeasurably benefited because of it. And I'm happy to,
What do you think that the Second Amendment comes in to, protecting all of these other constitutional rights that we hopefully all hold so dear?
Are you asking me just like historically or structurally? Like, do I think it?
Like, why is it so important to you to get these? Because what everybody will say. They're like, this is the 21st century. They're coming after us with guided missiles, and what can a 3D printed plastic gun really do to protect liberty?
I don't know. Ask 20 states in the union, right? Who write briefs in the federal court saying my posting of this information inestimably degrades their sovereign power. Well, that sounds good to me. So okay, like it either is a threat to national security or it isn't, right? I mean, you can't have it in this quantum state where it's just nothing. Look, I'm making your enemy known. I'm calling their bluff. Okay, like these people don't want you to be able to have the capacity to download and make a firearm for yourself in any standard with any qualification, much less one that could be printed. Who cares? The point is, they don't think the internet is a place where this culture can proceed to. And I think that not only is it there, and not only will we continue to humiliate them, but like this is a demonstration of like their total lack of power in this moment historically.
So we're definitely in a moment historically where either we're going to have increased concentration of power and information, or it's going to go the other way. And I think that it's very important that we have people, because a decentralized future seems like a much better one to me than a completely centralized future.
Well, I agree. Go ahead.
There's two things that are that I'm kind of issue spotting here. Issue spotting is a thing that lawyers do, Cody. We hear what's going on, and then we try to figure out what different things are implicated. There's a couple of different things here that could potentially come into play. One, you're talking about political free speech, right? And that's kind of a powerful thing. Back in the 70s, it used to be illegal to tear up a draft card. And all of the lawyers that are on the panel, hopefully, that took constitutional law, studied the draft card tearing, and how that was determined to be a protected act, that the function, the actual action of tearing something was a politically protected speech statement. So the Supreme Court has already decided a long time ago that actions, the display of an action, can be protected under free speech. So as I'm sitting here right now, taking a physical action and doing something, I consider this to be protected as political free speech, right? That I'm making a political statement in doing this 3D printing thing, if I'm to draw that action and make that correlation back to the tearing of the draft card. Also, flag burning has, that action of burning a flag, protected free speech. We may not agree with it, but it is protected. So the thing that comes to mind is how the action and creation of a firearm protected under the Second Amendment can also be tied into political free speech, so that we have not only the Second Amendment, but the First Amendment political free speech protections put down on top of that. Is that something that you've been exploring? I haven't read any of the briefs, I haven't read any of the memorandums, but is that something that you've been looking at?
So for many years, like we've included Second Amendment claims in our actions, and look, this is important. Like if there is a right to keep and bear arms, there's a necessarily included right to make them, as you're describing. But really, like, we're not defining the files and the speech at issue as like speech acts. We're simply defining it as like the traditional Ninth Circuit analysis of just, does software have its own First Amendment protection? Isn't there like a speech interest in Americans receiving and publishing code? Isn't the code itself worthy, with its expressive qualities and stuff, of protection in itself? This is the more pure argument. So there's less of a Second Amendment argument than a first, because of course it's not disputed that you have the right to make a gun in these actions. it's not disputed that you have the right to manufacture a gun of any quality with any material. Everyone understands that you can. So that's not really like what's happening there on your printer is not what's under attack. What's under attack is the data, posting the data to the internet and allowing anyone to download.
Cody, isn't it too late for that you posted the data? It's out there. I can see it. So like it's all there. So why are they can't stop it at this point, or can they?
No, you're totally right. And of course I have a license from the federal government to speak. I actually have it with me. This is from the State Department. Woo!
Nice.
Anyway,
wait, Cody, bring that up one more time. I put you on the big screen.
This is a license from the US State Department. Anyway, it allows me to post the files, and I did. So not only did I post them 5 years ago, but I posted them again this year in July, and they're in the public domain, legally committed. And I get a judge like today in Washington who says, well, the states will suffer irreparable harm if I don't stop you. Well, Sasha, to your point, he didn't stop me. You can't stop me. It already happened. It's happened over and over again. It's recycled online all the time. There's no possible harm that they could suffer at this point because the harm has already happened.
Now, do you think this could open the door for future harm because now there's a spotlight on it? Like before it went under the radar, people could make guns at home and no one really knew about it. Now they could put future regulations so that it becomes harder, or?
Sure, I think, of course, there's all types of opportunities for harms, but like future harms aren't the standard for injunctions in federal court. So now, again, I can't make a judge understand the law. So I'll just have to get kicked around the Ninth Circuit here. I'll probably have to go sue the State Department now for breach and all this other stuff because they've created this, manifestly unjust situation for me. But ultimately, we win this because the states don't even have the power to challenge the decisions of the State Department. They don't even have the standing to come into federal court. And I suppose they'll pay me for my trouble by the end.
And they already did, right? You got a settlement from the federal government for $45,000, was it, for your legal fees, or how?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was just a kind of nothing, but it shows you like how exceptional it was, because normally the State Department doesn't pay you for anything.
Yeah.
It's already a pretty exceptional thing.
Hey, it's Manny Alejandro. Thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time. In terms of the overall matter, I think it's fascinating because you're kind of exposing the conflict that we face a lot of times with federal versus state, and clearly how the state actors have to deal with federal law, and I think you're seeing a lot of the kind of underpinnings of how that actually works, in terms of states taking actions that either fall within federal law or might go beyond federal law. So appreciate again you taking the time, and I'm sorry that you have to go through all of this, but at the end of the day, from a practical perspective, right, do you think and you don't need to answer this if you can, if these matters are in your purview of your litigation, but you think the issue is because your gun is plastic and can't be detected? I know there's some parts of your gun, maybe that's worth explaining, how certain parts of your gun are metal that could be detected by metal detectors, because I think what I've seen in terms of the way the guns that are printed or described is that they're entirely plastic. They could potentially cause harm on society because they can't be detected. You're putting guns in the hands of potentially minors. Do you have a license to make guns as well? I think that's important to kind of just get out there and clarify the record.
In the past, I've had manufacturer's license from the ATF to do this kind of work, but frankly, I don't accept the frame of the question. It's illegal under federal law to have a completely plastic gun. I've never made a completely plastic gun. Just that you could doesn't mean that the data related to my gun is somehow, I don't know, implicated or debarred from, American possession. It's not. There's no law that addresses this. And just because you can do something like with some information that might be illegal doesn't mean that restricts that information. We've gone through this. We've gone through this for years in this country. Like, I can publish secrets for how to make a nuclear weapon, right? I can publish plans for how to make plastic explosive. Sure, if you make plastic explosive and you possess it, that's illegal. These are separate questions, as we all understand. But everybody freaks out with this gun. And look, I'm not at this point, I'm used to it. But these states don't have claims. A state can't come into federal court and try to create a claim under the Gun Control Act. It doesn't work. It's not how it works. So how do they come into Washington with a bizarre APA claim about the State Department? it'll get sorted, but not anytime soon, because the Ninth Circuit is just a joke, and I'm gonna have to wait for maybe the Supreme Court to fix this, and it bores me, man. It takes my time.
One thing I thought was interesting while reading a lot of the like Fox articles or whatnot, if you replaced Bitcoin with 3D gun, everything that they said was going to happen with the gun, it's going to be used by terrorism, it's going to be used for terrorists, for nefarious activities, all that stuff were the exact same arguments that people have made against Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is the same argument everybody makes against any type of controversial speech. Oh no, somebody can do something bad with it, or it can help someone defeat one of our laws, or, well, I'm sorry, but this is why speech is protected, because some of it is actually useful for things, and some of it can actually help you do things that might be bad. Okay, that's why it's protected. We don't protect useless speech or speech that has no functional component. It doesn't deserve protection. There's no controversy about saying happy birthday in this country. So that's what's always been said about anything that's controversial. And it'll be said about my stuff. It'll be said about Bitcoin. It'll be said about any particular piece of software, which ultimately provides a relief from state oppression and little tyrants. The song will always be the same.
Hey, so thanks, Sasha, for transitioning into Bitcoin, because I was going to go in that direction. So even in that video, you mentioned how you're working with Bitcoin.com, and they would double all donations, from what I understand. And well, the Bitcoin community is not very happy with Bitcoin.com right now. We've actually submitted a bunch of petitions to kind of try to, call that site, like a fake site, a misleading site, because they're all about Bitcoin Cash. They're trying to rebrand Bitcoin into Bitcoin Cash. So I got two Bitcoin related questions for you.
Sure.
One specifically, how do you feel about Bcash and the fact that they're being associated with you as they're trying to co-opt the brand? And the other one is this like, because Bitcoin is not really a company and Bitcoin is just a currency, and now this is all over the news, do you think that this could be a bit of a challenge for a lot of the Bitcoiners that may not support your effort, but now they're almost roped into it, or B, like Bitcoin can't defend itself because Bitcoin is not a company, and this could, look, I'm all for what you're doing, but I am also minded of all the people will have to explain this to, when they're like, well, Bitcoin, the company, is like supporting this effort that other people may not agree with. So what are your general thoughts on Bitcoin.com specifically, and how do you think this may or may not reflect on Bitcoin positively or negatively as an ecosystem?
Yeah. I'll answer those in reverse. So yeah, it's always my instinct to be I know that this confuses the press and people to be like, oh no, it looks like Bitcoin, the company, is supporting this endeavor. I like that. I'm sorry that you have to spend all that time now, correcting people, but that's how I proceed in my activism. Plenty of people have to spend lots of time correcting other people about what I do. When we raise all this money, I want to say that we did it in Bitcoin. It's not really important to me that, technically speaking, with an asterisk, 2/3 of it was funded by Bitcoin Cash or something. As far as I'm concerned, man, I got to get it funded. Now, I didn't open it up for like Monero or Zcash or, BTCC or something. I know I've known Ver for years. So a lot of that's based on our personal relationship. And then now to your point about, what about this controversy in the Bitcoin space? I'm connected with SNI. Like, I am a Bitcoin maximalist. That's my particular position, is that I believe original Bitcoin, BTC, is probably on the path to completely win. But I think reasonable people can disagree about whether Ver is being disingenuous or not, or whether he's quote unquote scamming people. I certainly understand some of the arguments, but from Ver's point of view, right, he's making a long play where he thinks BCH will win. He thinks it is Bitcoin. He literally believes that it is, and he does take some duty to distinguish, even though it doesn't satisfy some people's standards. He takes some duty to distinguish the difference between these two. But look, this is a controversy that I think the community should have, and if Roger Ver is successfully ostracized, then that's to some degree a kind of market justice. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I just know that I have to fund this stuff, and that you're all along on the ride with me, really, because if I lose, it's ultimately bad for your interests as well.
Well, I'm very happy you didn't ICO. Let's put it that way.
I've been offered many times over the years a chance to do like DD Coin or something, and look, I believe in crypto, but I mostly believe in, the one crypto to rule them all. And I'm not going to waste anyone's time on a scam or trying to get a bunch of money for something that I don't need. I see that little barrel there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just for clarification, everybody that's watching, this was printed on a WeDo M2 printer using PLA Pro filament, which absolutely 100% is not suitable to be used as a firearm. You can see that there was a support structure that was raised here for the forward sight. There was a printing mount plate I've just taken off, and that little support structure is there, and that's it. That's what I printed. So all of you that thought that I was printing some vicious beast of a gun, no, I printed basically a child's toy. But I printed a child's toy with publicly available STL documents downloaded, derived from the information that was published almost 5 years ago. And you could too, if you wanted to make a little pop gun. I don't even think a 22 LR would go through that, and if it did, it would probably blow it apart.
It would. Definitely would.
The fact of the matter is, and I'll just say this from an ease of use standpoint, I think about an hour ago, I located the files online, downloaded them to my computer, and in under an hour, printed a barrel with a sight on it. So that's kind of revolutionary when you think about access to information, the ability to do things, what technology does. And yeah, I mean, just so you know, Cody, I mean, if you need any help with anything, just let me know. I'm a big fan.
I just got a quick question. We have lots of audience people are asking. Now, I don't know if we want to answer this question. Let me start there. Lots of our live viewers are asking where they can download these files. I don't know if that is something we want to say on this channel. I don't want to say it. If anybody else wants to say it,
I will suggest that the easiest way for anybody to find anything that they want on the internet is to open up a search browser and let your fingers do the walking.
It's not very hard. It's not very hard to find the sites that are mirroring the files right now. So I'll say it that way. Just a casual perusal of the different news articles covering this case and these controversies right now will show you sites that are hosting the files at the moment. Thanks for the kind words, by the way. And it was cool to see you download the barrel. I'll note for people watching, that there was a scale issue with the barrel. We didn't quite set the right units and everything, but it is a good example of how quickly you can print something like a Liberty barrel.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And that's what's really being challenged here. It's not the nature of this gun so much as it is, look, if this stuff's online, in a certain sense, gun control is not possible. And this is why 20 states in the union are running to federal court, because they understand that this is the ball game. This is really the ball game. And, maybe they can get some judges to agree with them to some degree for a long time. And even if they do, even if they completely win out, we still know, just like with Bitcoin, this stuff doesn't stop being possible. But it would be nice. It would be nice to win.
Can I go ahead, Sasha?
Oh, I was just wondering, do you have a dead man switch or anything that can release the files if something does happen down the line?
Wow.
I'm not going to confirm.
Wow, that's pretty morbid, Sasha.
No, but I got something really cool.
What are you suggesting, that one of Hillary Clinton's assassins is going to take him? I'm sorry. Say that?
I got something probably better than that. He doesn't have to go that dire. I can continue to be alive. So a live man switch, and I'll flip it tomorrow. How about that?
Yeah, Cody. Tone raised some really interesting things about Bitcoin, right? So we're all out here trying to convince the world and the skeptics and the lawmakers and the judges that crypto is not a bad thing, right? Yeah. So, what do you think that this does when you're tying your Second Amendment push with Bitcoin? I mean, what does it do to the narrative, and what does how do you control that, and how do you, because a narrative is an important thing.
I agree. I'm kind of an OG Bitcoiner at this point, right? I got in the game when it was only Silk Road and illicit stuff. And I continue to prefer some of that messaging and the spirit of that, just to remind people that what's our project here? Our project does intend to be ultimately revolutionary, and to include, a promise of radical privacy and radical fungibility and the funding of things which are today considered to be, forbidden. There's like a liberative potential to Bitcoin as a currency or a mode of wealth. So I'll always represent that message. Now I don't want to give you a hard time, right? But I'm really interested in always being that part of that conversation. So hopefully it makes the good lawyers in this space sharp and not feel the need to give anything up. Because I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing. You have to recognize that what you're fighting for includes what I do. Maybe that makes you change your opinion about the space, but we have to announce who we are and remind people that we're still here.
So you're basically saying it all falls under the umbrella of liberty, right? And
for sure.
And so, there's really no conflict. And listen, I'm highly supportive of it. One of the things that's really, really crazy nowadays is, having to self-censor your opinions. When we have, we all have probably things we think about that we don't think it's comfortable to say because the world is out there, the Twitterverse and the, people being doxxed. And not that I don't put my name out there, but, it's just a really, I commend what you're doing, because, liberty is something that I've always thought would be a historical anomaly. Because I've always looked at the world as power and information is continuing to accumulate and let fewer and fewer hands. So anything that we can do that fights back against that, I think is a really powerful and necessary thing you're doing. So keep it up.
Well, thank you. I share your view of history. I think liberty has been pretty rare and only just effervescent or something, and periods of just long stretches of tyranny and stuff. I take that position. I think many liberals do as well. And even if we proceed to like a legal situation where everything's monitored and controlled, we at least understand that there will be factional, zones of relative freedom. Like Bitcoin's always going to persist, even in the countries where it's illegal, like Venezuela, right? People are holding on in Venezuela because of Bitcoin. And look, I don't mean to approximate the 3D printed guns, which are admittedly absurd, but there's an element of that in our project as well. It's a signal that people will, to some degree, always have the right to keep and bear arms, or at least the DNA for that type of activity. And I think that's something worth fighting for, and I'll continue to do it.
Hey, it's Manny again. How far are you willing to take this? I think you alluded to it earlier. I mean, are you willing to just continue to fight to the Supreme Court? Like, what's your end game in this right now?
Oh, look, I've been to the Supreme Court before on this, right? I've been at this for years. At this point, I'm not really good at anything else. So why would I stop? It's and I know it might not look good right now. I got all these states and they're getting orders and stuff and they're winning, but frankly, like they all lose at the end of this one. I've got a license from the feds. I've got DOJ arguing on my side in court. Like this doesn't get better for them. This only gets worse. And that's to, the great magnification and glory of our project. The more this is fought and the more publicly it's fought, the more the information is spread, the more people decide that they want it. I'd be nothing if I wasn't constantly frustrated by state governments. You wouldn't know my name.
And it's kind of like one of those situations where people can't decide. I mean, when I first heard about it, I'll be honest, I didn't think it's necessarily a good thing to put these guns out in the hands of anyone that could have mental challenges or, be crazy and be, there's certain times when certain people might not be supposed to have guns if they're felons and they've done a lot of harm. But when I had to think about it, it's like, well, if we block having guns out there, then what's next? And what's next after that? And what's next after that? And if we don't talk about it, then it's something that, no light will come to it. Like through conversation, you get to the right answer. And if it's just no speech is out there, then it's, not a good place to live at all. So I appreciate what you're doing just to help me, further my understanding of the free speech argument.
Well, I think look, I both regret and I'm relieved to hear you say that. Like I often have doubts too about some elements of what we do. I know that like anything worth pursuing like this though has its kind of dangerous element. That's just how it is. Like it can be abused, bad things can happen. Sometimes I try to relieve people and let them know that like, look, we don't pursue it because we think bad things will happen. Like we pursue it because to allow our enemy to have control over it would be intolerable.
Mm-hmm. But When you say enemy, you mean the government?
Yeah, I mean the state and the federal government, the state governments, city
Because
governments.
what if we're putting it in the hands of enemies in like other parts of the world that could use it against?
I don't accept those designations, right?
Yeah, and when I thought about it too, I was like, well, anyone can do any kind of damage with a car or any other instrument. If someone wants to do harm, they're going to do harm. So it doesn't matter whether they print this off the internet or not. If that's their intent, they're going to find a way.
I think you're right. And I should limit my comments further. But I think, yeah, of course, I think you're right.
So Cody,
go ahead. I was gonna say, Cody, I don't know how much more time we have for you, so Bill, we'll let you jump in, and then maybe if David Silver, who just joined us, has like a question for Cody, we'll get one more answered, and we can let you go. Hey, you can see what I've ran these things for 6 hours long, right? If the conversation is good, our live viewers will love it.
Cody, how does this intersect with all of this? These First Amendment issues that we're seeing in the news, right? Where very large information providers can essentially take people's speech and put it into the dustbin. Are you concerned with the fact that even though this information may be out there, maybe Google or other information providers are going to make it so that you really can't find it?
I think you must have seen then some of the news about this, because it intersects very neatly with this question about big tech. Facebook won't allow you to share links to the files to where you could access this information. I was just kicked off a large e-commerce platform, Shopify, because of this. Amazon recently removed a book of the code that someone published. Just removed it. Didn't really cite a reason why. Of course, it's legal to have the code. It's legal to publish the code, right? Like these tech companies by themselves, independent of decisions of the judiciary and the Congress, will just choose to kind of memory hold this stuff. And this isn't theoretical. I've made basically all the big ones do it already. I haven't been able to advertise or promote myself on Google or Facebook in many years. So sure, like all this stuff will be very marginal activity. But at the same time, if you're looking for 3D printed gun files on Facebook, maybe you're one of those people that shouldn't have them anyway.
David, you wanna ask Cody anything, or you're here for the securities discussion, which we'll eventually get to?
I mean, I think I'm gonna take a little pass on this. All I know about Cody is he's for the printing of the 3D guns. I'm a pro-regulation guy, and my pro-regulation continues into regulating all things guns. I live in Parkland, Florida, and I am pro-regulation, whether it be securities, guns, doesn't really matter. So I didn't hear you guys talk earlier. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think these things need to be voted on, and all we need is people to show up and vote, and the people who vote the most deserve to get their say.
Yeah, cool. That sounds a lot like an opinion for someone who didn't have one to share. But anyway, I feel like what's fun about David's position is it doesn't matter how much he votes or how much Bill Nelson or anybody else has anything to say about it. You can still download that shit just like Jason did today and print it out, and then we can show. Like Jason, you can show David the barrel that you printed.
Oh yeah. So David, what I did is downloaded one of the STL files and scaled it to basically make a kid's toy.
There you go, David. Have a good night. So anyway, guys, I think I gotta go. I think I gotta talk to my lawyers and everything. But it's been a pleasure, and I'm gonna make your politicians break your internet. And then even David in the end will say, oh, it's too much. They've broken the internet. And that'll be my fault. And you're all welcome.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on, Cody. And hey, you just met 5 more lawyers in case in case you
a joy.
Well, maybe 4. Maybe 4. I don't think David will take you on. But but then again, if you get enough Bitcoin donations, you probably will.
Everyone's got their price. All right, guys, I'll see you later.
Thanks.
Hey, Cody, I just put in the chat list. Oh, I think he's already gone.
No, I'm here. What's up?
Oh, great. I just sent you my email through the Zoom webinar chat.
Word. Nice to meet you guys.
Reach out, man. We'll talk to you soon. Be well. Good luck.
Thanks, man. All right, guys. Any final thoughts on this whole 3D gun thing now that Cody maybe answered some of your questions? And then we'll move on to our other topic, for the day, which is, security tokens.
So I think the main thing that we have driving this, the discussion, I think, is probably maybe slow news cycle or fear or whatever it is, right? You get somebody who watches a news show and they go, oh my God, they're going to put a gun, they're going to get it through security, and we're going to have 9/11 all over again because reasons, right? The world before 9/11 was a pretty great world. We didn't walk around living in fear about what might happen all the time. Today, I don't think we live in that world anymore. So, I mean, I get it. I understand the fear and the risk mitigation. We're lawyers. We understand mitigating risk. But to regulate something out of existence or to try to keep something from existing at the expense of speech is probably not okay. One of my favorite free speech cases, of course, is State v. Cohen. One man's vulgarity is another's lyric. You combine that with the Second Amendment principles here, and I think this is fuck the draft, right? That was State v. Cohen. Guy walks into the courthouse with fuck the draft written on his back. He was publishing things that people thought were obscene, and the Supreme Court held that was 100% protected speech, political protected speech, the most protected that we have. Just because somebody thought it was bad doesn't mean that somebody doesn't think it's beautiful. Being able to print this for a lot of people in the United States, which may be vulgar for some people, is a beautiful lyric for another. And so that's why I think it's okay to at the very least, you may not agree with it, but you can agree with the free speech component and the constitutional protection component of it as lawyers. Now, if somebody passes a law or somebody passes some sort of regulation that somehow says, this has been baking my fucking noodle all day today, how a state is going to preempt federal law, right? Supremacy clause here, right? Preemption. States are trying to do it the reverse. And I'm not smart enough, I guess, as a lawyer to understand how the states are trying to flip the tables on that. So maybe one of you guys, it's definitely smarter than I am, can tell me how suddenly supremacy clause and preemption got flipped around. Anyone?
Well, before they do that, I just want to jump in, because I fly a lot from conference to conference. And if people are worried that these things are going to go through security, the security, the scanner machine, first of all, there is metal in it. That's one. Second of all, your scanning machine should be able to recognize if there's something in your bag that looks like a gun. For example,
I'll tell you what, let me show you something.
Oh, Jay. Basically, you see that this is an H4n Zoom microphone.
Yeah.
I can't, not once have I gotten through airport security without this thing. I even take it out of my bag now, right? If I leave it in my bag, my whole bag gets searched. I take it out of my bag. I put it in a bin next to my laptop. That bin gets always set aside. And I have two people looking at this thing, and I have to explain to them that it's a microphone.
You ready? You ready for this? What's that look like to you? This has been pulled out of my bag, right? Because I used to do the mobile shows for the Not Your Lawyer show, right? And this is a great little CAD microphone, right? I love it. It's USB. I plug it in my laptop. But that sumbitch right there gets pulled out of my bag every time I try. Sir, do you have a weapon in your bag? No, it's a microphone, man. So we're gonna need to open your bag.
Right, but look, I know you can take that apart.
Come on.
I have a feeling you leave it this way on purpose. I know you can take it apart.
Look, I'm just saying I do like to troll, but even if I did, take the microphone off, the thing that doesn't come apart is still the thing that looks like a handle in a barrel, right? I mean, just leaving the microphone on,
right?
Control.
Yeah, but come on, guys. I mean, I'm teetering on 100,000 miles flying,
and that's even better, right? I mean, isn't that Han Solo's blaster?
Jason should be stopped for carrying that. Your thing looks like something out of Star Trek, for crying out loud. It looks like when the guys get off on Star Trek, like it's futuristic. Look, I don't disagree with the guy's right to say anything he wants, to print anything he wants is legal. But yeah, I mean, look, modern technology is changing. We got to do something. No, I don't want people to be able to carry guns onto planes. I kind of agree with what Tone's saying. So far, we're fortunate where it does seem scanners can pick it up. But look, I don't want to go to the airport. I'm flying to San Francisco tomorrow. I'd like to make it there and home without any issues. So you've got to have anyone who can't understand why this might be a problem is missing the point of,
No. Everybody knows why it might be a problem, okay? But that's why we have to take our fucking shoes off at the airport now, David.
Yes.
It's because one guy showed up with fucking plastic explosives in his shoes.
Yes.
Right? So now I have to be like barefoot walking around with other people, subjected to fucking athlete's foot walking around the goddamn airport.
No, see, I gave up my civil rights. I gave up my civil rights. I now do TSA pre-check. I do clear. I've given over my rights. The government looks at me like an open book. I've surrendered my rights of privacy, which is what drives a lot of people in this.
For convenience, right? I have not done that yet, but I still have to stand on a general line as much as I fly, and I still got to get my, my body grabbed because I don't do those damn machines, man. That's what I got to deal with every time I fly, which is like 50 times a year.
Tone, we all know why you want to have your body grabbed.
Yes, I want to get my doctor's.
Keep it clean.
Every time I fly through the airport, that's exactly what I'm looking forward to.
I think what's so interesting about this, is really clearly First Amendment and Second Amendment, but fundamentally we're talking about regulation, and that's how this ties into Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, ICOs, and the entire suite of potential topics that we're talking about is, how do you effectively regulate, and how do you actually, go from potentially banning something, so you have either no regulation at all, or you have a complete ban. And I think we're realizing that those are opposite extremes of the spectrum, and we need to be somewhere in the middle. And I think the problem is determining where that dial should be placed. That's a conundrum. That's an extreme conundrum, and it's complex. It's a complex problem.
Yeah, guys. Let's jump on to our second topic. I will close off on this. I think what a lot of people are actually looking for is a rational discussion from our politicians and regulators on this. Yeah. And I know it's not going to happen, right? But I know it's not going to happen. But oh my God, Bitcoin Khaleesi is here, and she missed the Cody Wilson. Oh no. Adela, you with us? Trying to get her in here, but I think that's what I would want to see. I would want to see, like, instead of what happened, like some actual discussion with Cody on this and working with him. Hey, Adela. Hey. Sorry we missed you while Cody Wilson was on. He was with us for like 45 minutes.
I was looking. I was actually in a meeting and basically like on my phone, just listening to everything that was going on.
We're printing toy guns
through the comments, and Jason had a whole sort of mystery sort of thing going on. Something was printing. I really liked Cody. He seems very sane, and I really like that. Mm-hmm. Tony, you're looking very well. Are you still on a carnivore diet?
Mostly. I'm able to maintain it like 90% of the time, which is good. Maybe 95. I snuck in some avocado yesterday. I couldn't help it. Yeah, I'm trying to transition into it.
Are you doing CrossFit again?
No, I don't have time because I'm about to start traveling. I hurt my back like a month ago. So 2 months of hardcore working out and like actually having muscle has all disappeared now. Right in time for the cruise. Perfect.
Nice. Yeah. I was following what you were saying about, you wish like our politicians could really sit down and have a rational discussion. But I mean, if anything is, abundantly clear is that we can't. I think our political arena right now is just all about butthurt and fuel, and like we're living in the sort of the time of outrage culture. I just don't see that as, I think we probably need to go through this kind of like, almost like phase. So we can kind of like, everybody can kind of calm the fuck down after, but I think this is going to continue. I don't know.
So I got one question for you, Adela, and then we're going to move on. Yeah. How do you think this initiative and having Bitcoin.com in that video is going to reflect on the Bitcoin ecosystem? Because, hey, we are a Bitcoin channel here. This is the Bitcoin Law Review. How do you think this is going to affect the Bitcoin community?
Dude, you try to pull me into this shit every week. And, you know, ultimately, my arms are too short to box of God, right? And I have good friends on both sides, right? But you know what?
I meant like the Bitcoin community in general, not Bcash versus Bitcoin debate. You can stay away from that one.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Again, it's a big thing that's turned from, you know, fact to feelings and outrage. And a lot of people feel like they have a legitimate claim against VER for misrepresenting Bitcoin on Bitcoin.com, right? Whether or not, you know, those things are valid is not up to me. I'm not a judge, right? Personally, I'm undecided on the issue. I'm still undecided on the issue. I think it's kind of shady to misrepresent, period. But I also feel like I don't have full and complete picture. I'm sorry, it's not what you're really looking for.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's move on to our second topic for the day. And our second topic specifically talks about, you know, the renewed ideas that these ICOs and tokens are securities. And there was an article talking about 5 ICOs that exit scammed for over $100 million or $100 million in total. I'm actually not familiar with any of these, so I'm not surprised they have exit scammed. I'm sure there are more. I just wanted to pull this article up. What I do want to focus on is there was an awesome like a Twitter like series by Eric Wall, and he pointed out like 10 you know, popular altcoins and ICOs. Most of these are ICOs, so immediately someone replies, one of them is not an ICO, you know, like anybody cares. And these are all down over 90%, and I think they're going to go down some more. So I think that now that the bear market is with us, and I think that the bear market is going to stay with us a little bit longer, I think once a lot of these things are down 98%, 99%, and it doesn't look like they're going to be coming back, I think that's when, you know, the shit's going to hit the fan with you, some of you guys getting lots and lots of phone calls. Okay. So please check out this series. It's really good. I particularly liked this part where he explains how an ICO comes about. Basically, some guy wants to build something. He decides to do an ICO, realizes he needs money to do an ICO. So they do a private sale to get some money. Then they use that money to promote. And then they do a pre-sale to another round of influencers. And then they finally launch the ICO. So all of those early people can cash out. So it was actually really, really funny. And let's talk about 2 specific ones that are now in the news. I have a feeling that almost every week for the rest of the year, there's going to be someone else suing another project as a security. And my biggest concern is, do these cases have merit, or is it some guy that lost $100 with some, you know, crazy useless lawyer that's going to lose the case, and now you won't be able to actually go after Ravencoin as a security. You won't be able to go after Unikrn as a security, because these are the 2 I want to focus on. General thoughts, and then maybe if anyone's read this Raven is a security document, can chime in.
I read the document. So the first thing that you have to look at is the motivations of the person that's drafting the document, right? If you read through the circumstances that this document was created, it's not a legal opinion. It's not even a legal memorandum. It's just a published article by a lawyer who says that he's involved in the marketplace and in the community. So from a conflict of interest standpoint, from a show of hands, if you were an attorney and you had a bunch of shitcoin called Ravencoin and you didn't want it to be banned from the market, would you think that this document written by that attorney had a specific conflict of interest or was trustworthy? By a show of hands, is there a conflict of interest? Really?
Yeah,
I'm the only one that, oh, there's three.
obviously, yes.
There's four.
I
Well,
want
again,
to,
see,
Jason. Defamation, slander.
I gotta stop the screen
ridiculous.
share. And then no one was actually seeing the hands, right?
Right. So, you know, there's obvious conflict of interest in the information that's being given. Next, what you don't address and what hasn't been addressed in that document, which I look at, is not the functionality of the network, not the technology of the network. I look at how the network is promoted, how it's advertised, who's in control of it, what their motivations are, and everything that's surrounding the environment of the network. And none of that's taken into consideration in this document, right? And so until we have all of those considerations of intention, creation, public statements, publicity, where it's been launched, how it's been launched, who's benefiting from it and what those things are. I'll take this document of whether or not Ravencoin is a security or not, and I'm just gonna basically wipe my ass with it. It's not worth anything. Fails to go into any of that. So, I mean, you can do a clinical analysis all you want on whether something's a security or not, but if you ignore, you know, the key specifics in my favorite case, which is SEC v. Glenn Turner, in the family resemblance test of what it's doing. Does it look like a duck, walk like a duck, talk like a duck? Does it do all? What are the circumstances around it? If you ignore that in your analysis, you're just failing.
Well, and I think that's what we're seeing in the community in general, Jason, is trying to cabin this analysis to a very sterile set of considerations.
Yeah, it's lazy because it's the people that want to get listed on exchanges think that they can get this kind of a letter and they've got a clean bill of health, and
they've got a clean bill of health. You know, it's really, as you said, does it have a fundraising purpose, and
right.
That doesn't seem to be addressed in this. You know, I'm going to be agnostic either way about it. I don't think that I have quite the ass wiping inclination that
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's
but
well
where's
written.
The investment contract on this? Like, there is none. They didn't do an ICO. They mined it. It was mined on, you know, using the same proof of work as Bitcoin. So if last week we took airdrops and said those are investment contracts, now we're going to say that if you mine coins, that's an investment contract?
Oh, well, I can make a very solid argument for how mining coin under certain circumstances absolutely is an investment contract.
Why? Because of the cost the electricity cost?
So let's say I am a miner, and you know, I like to call him Brian Fenton from time to time, just because that was, you know, stage B and Chris and Junseth at TNABC Miami when he was.
Yeah, I think that's what McAfee called. I think that's what McAfee called him once, and that's why he always called him after.
So I think Brian, and I don't know if any of you guys caught my conversation with Fenton or not. We had a rather large debate on this issue, not on the mining issue specifically, but if I take my time, effort, energy, money, and I start pointing my assets and resources into Ravencoin on the promise that it's going to go up.
Who promised that, though? No one.
Well, that's the thing. You can't say what promises have or have not been given,
well,
right?
I think that's where you talk about this promotional issues, right?
That's
What's
right.
being promoted in the marketplace.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
let me just jump in on that real quick. Jason, I actually think we lost your audio. And I think that you can make a claim that every single proof of work token after Bitcoin has an element of, I'm going to get on this early with the expectation that it's going to go up in price. I think Bitcoin is the only one that can claim that was not an expectation.
No, I don't think that's true. I'll take the opposite side that I normally take.
The difference is with Bitcoin and Ravencoin is we absolutely know who's in control of Ravencoin, right?
Is it Bruce Fenton?
It is
sure.
Bruce Fenton.
Well, Wasn't it released so anyone could mine it? So it's supposed to
but
be
who the hell would do
decentralized.
anything called Ravencoin because because it's tied to Game of Thrones? Look, people get into it because it's a Fenton thing, right?
Yeah.
And people got into Ethereum because it was a Vitalik thing. When you're talking about the obvious scenario of control persons and the when you get into horizontal and vertical commonality, and when you start looking at those tests of is there enough control, who truly is in control, et cetera, whenever you talk about Ravencoin, you're going to talk about Fenton, right? He's the guy. Whenever you talk about Ethereum, you talk about Vitalik. Whenever you talk about Bitcoin Cash, you talk about Roger, right? Those are the people that you identify, and those are the people's reputations that you go. What's the thing Brock's doing in Puerto Rico other than running a cult? Doesn't he have his own coin? I mean, Adela, you've been to that like church or that castle that he rented, right? You went to one of those parties? Or Sasha, you just muted yourself. You went.
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
There are pictures of Sasha there.
Yeah, so now I
would have gone if I had the opportunity, probably. But
I have Brock associated with two coins. When he was at Blockchain Capital, they launched the BCAP token, and he was a big part of EOS. I don't know if he's doing anything else, but I have Brock associated to those two ICOs.
Let's just go back to the original slide before we jump into, because I think Ravencoin falls into it. We were talking about Nano being, I think Nano is actually technically a faucet. So I'm not really sure why they're different. Oh, wait, it's because they're sued in a class action by me. Oh, they were up over 90% before that happened. Amazing what happens with transparency. And I think that's what's really important here is, and I've said this for a while now, the more that the eyes of the regulators, the world, people like us, what's driving all this is companies aren't going to be able to survive just on, we've seen it in expedited fashion. The people who did ICOs without having something really behind it, it was back in the days of the, when the internet bubble was popping. If you went IPO on Wall Street, it didn't matter what was behind the company. The fact that these are down 95% is because there's nothing behind them. Until the use cases and applications and usability comes back into place, a lot of what we're discussing is just, I have no idea what Ravencoin is. I know the lawyer who wrote it, Pepe, has something to do with it. But I also know he's a highly educated person, works at a decent firm. But I've also read the Perkins Cooley memo that's got submitted to the SEC. There are a lot of smart people in this space who are submitting things that they know are bullshit to cover their own asses.
That's right.
So I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on something. I recently saw something that I don't think I was supposed to see. It was a document sent to me by an exchange, I think in error. And it had a list of all the acceptable law firms that they would take opinions from. What do you guys think of that?
Was my firm on it?
Actually,
was my firm on it.
You were not there. I looked.
Then, God damn it, I don't think that's a respectable list.
Yeah.
Was I on it? That's a good question.
No, you were not.
Probably not.
Of course not. You were not. And so I inquired after this document, and they said, well, we'll make an exception or something like that. But it was weird, and I never really seen anything quite like it. And I thought to myself, well, what is going on? Do they actually have in-house counsel that with some sort of, not maybe a specialty, but at least proficient knowledge enough to gauge whether the content of these opinions, right, is worth any salt?
I was going to change the subject, so I'm not going to do that. I do want to hear an answer to that question.
Yeah.
So I forget whether it was Bitfinex or Bittrex when they put out their memo of what coins they were accepting, and they specifically said that they weren't going to make a decision, that it was in-house counsel would not make a specific decision. It was outside counsel whose opinions they were going to rely on. And I remember posting that, somewhere whether it was Twitter or whatnot, I highlighted the language and was like, this is a great caveat that the exchange themselves is not going to accept responsibility. They're going to rely on outside counsel. I still believe this. I haven't filed a malpractice case. I'm unaware of anyone filing malpractice cases related to the ICOs yet. But I do believe that the law firms who did a lot of this work have deep pockets. They have insurance. And with coins down at 90% and Clayton claiming that, the gatekeepers are going to get in trouble for this, the gatekeepers are going to eventually get in trouble, and the gatekeepers being the lawyers.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When you do that shifting, but it really opens up the gate to a lot of craziness as well. People will pay a lot of money for an opinion. I've heard some people are charging, upwards of $100,000 for these opinions. And how
I need to up my rates. Oh wait, I'm not on the list, so
no, you're not on the list, so it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Right. But it would be nice, right? I mean, wouldn't you like to just kind of sit there and make like 100K? But you're not going to make 100K if you give them a bad something that they don't want to hear, though.
I'm surprised. Perkins and Cooley have to be charging more than that.
Oh, some people are charging like almost like these bounties, or not bounties, but like success fees. It's.
So can we go back to Ravencoin for just a second? I mean, all right, let's. I don't know everything about the details of it. I think I did read Mr. Pepe's analysis. I think I read the white paper because this is being promoted as a way, like a polymath, right? That you can promote, you can create securities, you can tokenize assets. Okay, so it is being something that is not being pre-mined. It's being relying on the same backbone software as Bitcoin. So let me ask you guys this. Is this the type of thing that we would want to be a security? I know we can make an argument, Jason and probably any of us on this panel can make an argument that this is a security, but do we really want it to go that far? I don't think that if I'm being honest with myself, that this is drawing the line too far in the sand. And I think that it probably is for me. And yes, it may have some features that would seem like a security, but this might be a bridge too far.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that real quick before the experts actually answer. So if Ravencoin, I know nothing about Ravencoin. So if Ravencoin was a proof of work like Litecoin, is just like they took the Bitcoin code, they changed a variable or two, they launched it as a proof of work without, this is important, without an Instamine like Dash did back when it was Xcoin and then Darkcoin and then Dash, and without a mining reward to the founders like Zcash did. If this really was like a Litecoin proof of work launch, and it stays 100% proof of work without this proof of stake garbage, diverting money for, sponsoring conferences and to me, like the Litecoin to me is not really a security. Monero, not a security. Even like Maxcoin, which is kind of controlled by Max Kaiser, was also launched exactly like Litecoin was. And it's still 100% proof of work. And the first block was fair. Or let's say the second block was fair. I'm okay with the guy mining the first block as long as the first block doesn't have 50% of the coins, right? So other than that, I'm okay with arguing they could be securities. So if Ravencoin is identical to Litecoin in every way, except the type of algorithm that is used for mining, I actually would not want this to be a security because I think I agree with you, Bill. That's going a little bit too far.
Yeah, you explained exactly my understanding of how Raven works, Tone. It's just like Litecoin and how it was created.
So how do they have the money to pay Pepe, which is an awesome name, to write this up?
He volunteered because he's a part of their community.
Right, and that's the conflict of interest that I was talking about, right? When we talked about people that are holders of coins and they make statements or they do things, influencers, and we talked about the influencers last week, right? that you can have airdrops and you can have what may be a very sterile environment, what may be a pure environment for a non-securities token, something that's decentralized. But when you have influencers or people that hold large portions and they start making statements that then adjust the value that those influencers or early adopters then use in order to cash out later, right? The greater fool argument. That's where I think if they wanted to have this paper written, it needed to be by somebody who didn't actually have the coin, and then it would have some legitimacy, right? And that's the problem with having somebody that's internal to the project write their own opinion about how they're not something that violates the law. It could be exactly correct. It's the conflict of interest thing that stuck out to me right away. And I'm rereading the document now. I read it last week when you talked about how you wanted to talk it about today. But I still have the same opinion. The conflict of interest.
In that case, Jason, let me throw it back at you, because you argued in court in the Trend on Shavers case
that right.
Bitcoin is not a security. But if you had Bitcoin at the time, isn't there the same conflict of interest there?
Truth be told, I did not hold Bitcoin at the time that I did the Shavers case.
but if you did. But if you did.
I think Jason accredit me with having him accept Bitcoin eventually, right?
So doesn't it mean that I should credit you as well, since Jason convinced me to do it?
Yeah, it all goes back to Dels. Dels is the root of all evil. She's actually, back to the Garden of Eden, original temptress.
But you guys are making a statement. Is it a fact that Pepe didn't get paid for this? Like, I haven't read it. Did he actually say somewhere that he's doing this free and this is just his opinion, and it's not a legal opinion that wasn't done by his firm?
I think it was on the GitHub repository that it was said somewhere, but I read it somewhere, but I can't think of exactly of where.
Yeah, I think it says it in the back of it. It says it at the end of it somehow, some way.
Does it?
Yeah, let me scroll to the end here.
So that's a great, fact in the lawsuit that, he's giving this as an
opinion. Here it is. I've got it.
From his law firm.
I've got it. It says he has written this article. So Doug J. Pepe, partner with blah, blah, blah. He has written this article and provides the information in it solely in his capacity as a user of a decentralized network with no authority from any person or central Ravencoin related authority or entity. No such authority or entity exists. Okay. This article is for informational purposes only and does not contain legal advice. No attorney-client relationship is created with any person or entity by or through this article or the information in it. Any person or entity reviewing this article should rely on their own research, analysis, judgment, and information, and the research, analysis, judgment, and advice of their own counsel and exercising any right or making a decision. No person or entity may rely on this article or the information set forth in it for any purpose.
Right, and I have it up on the screen right now, actually, for everybody.
And my point simply being, depending on how this document gets used, there are lawsuits like this all the time where people say they did something that it was away from, but if they're sending this around, and I'm sure there are emails that Fenton and Pepe sent this to people saying, read this.
Right. Just like Ethereum held up that letter that they got from a retired SEC commissioner that said that they weren't a security.
Yeah.
Right. They held that up as proof that they were fine. Right. But it has no weight. It has no bearing. That guy's opinion doesn't mean anything. They're just holding that up to say, see, we did it right. And you can use the same thing for this. And if that impacted the price at all, if that changed the price at all, right? Those are the situational things, right, Bill, that we look at as to whether or not, the influencers or the circumstances of the situation have made an impact within the security, if it is a security or not. I mean,
So, I always go back and look at what the purposes of the securities laws are, right? And whether this type of a thing is a good fit. So we have fundraising. We want healthy fundraising, adequate disclosure in fundraising. We want orderly markets. We want to make sure that there's an absence of fraud. And so, I think that those are good goals that we would want in any tokenized marketplace. And, but for me, one of the big things I've always had a problem with, I guess you could say, the crypto market writ large, is people are able to make statements, public statements, without any repercussions for whether they would be false and misleading, right? And when I look at this, for example, Ravencoin, I think this is a really interesting case to just dissect. For me, I would rather, instead of saying this is a security and we need to lump all of these things into the securities box, it's a square peg in a round hole. It's not exactly the same thing. It doesn't fit. But I would really like to see some brand new regulation that would apply to ICO coins, to Ravencoin, to Bitcoin, that would prevent false and misleading statements in the marketplace. These pump and dump schemes are really unfortunate when you have the ability to come out and say, I think this is a security, this is not a security. Discuss.
Doesn't the CFTC take on that role, and don't they have regulation around false and misleading statements already?
They do. If something is a commodities futures contract,
right?
And we've discussed this before. There was that opinion. It was a Bitcoin opinion, and we've talked about it on this show. It's been a while, but Judge so-and-so said that under the commodities futures, whatever the statute is, you can tell it's not my specialty. Whatever that statute is, the CFTC could regulate Bitcoin and could regulate contracts related to Bitcoin and false and misleading statements. So, but I don't think, we as lawyers are trying to put it into a box that we understand. I think that what needs to happen is we really need to create its own classification that has a hybrid of these things, because if we don't have it, we're going to be constantly looking at a case-by-case basis. We're lawyers who, for example, like you, Sasha, who are trying to advise, or Manny, who are trying to advise companies trying to get these projects off the ground, aren't going to have legal clarity. And people like myself, and I'm on both sides of this. But if I'm representing investors, I want to have some legal clarity too. Investors want to have some legal clarity too. So, but we definitely should have a prohibition on pump and dump schemes, false and misleading statements. And, that's the hook for the securities law for me. I'm going to answer my phone.
All right, guys, I actually wanted to jump on to our final story, but it's also in the same realm of securities. But this one has to do with, Mark Cuban's entry into the ICO world. And Mark Cuban has taken on the SEC before, so this may not be new for him. And his ICO Unikrn is also in a little bit of hot water, probably from a disgruntled investor. And here is their statements and their filing. Defendants have crafted a flimsy facade. Oh, wow. I've never seen that letter before. Facade that UKG tokens are not securities, claiming they are utility tokens. Sorry, this is from the plaintiff. In reality, the Unikrn Gold ICO was an offer and sale of a security. Indeed, it is evident that investors were purchasing UKG tokens with the expectations that these tokens would increase in value and become worth more than the virtual currencies invested. And it said that they picked up a bunch of Ethereum, and they did this under the Simple Agreement for Future Tokens, SAFT, drafted by Marco Santori back when he was with Pillsbury, I believe. And again, my question comes down to, how credible are the plaintiffs here? Because if you're going to go after Mark Cuban, you better have one hell of a case.
Okay, speaking as the plaintiff or lawyer here, I will simply say this is really easy. I think it's that, and I think Bill kind of hit on this. The actual mission statement by the SEC is one line. The mission of the SEC is to protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. When somebody wants to hire me, I ask one question: did you lose any money? If they say I lost money, I take that case on contingency fee. If they say, well, I'm fighting this case over principal, I'm like, well, you pay hourly for principal. So a lot of these lawsuits, Tone, I think this is what you were getting at before, are investors who lost very little money. Because while things were going up, everyone was had a profit. So the question becomes, at what point aren't these cases economically feasible? And we can look at the Ripple case for the lawyers who are doing the Ripple case. There's a lot of money if they won, but who's financing that case? Because Ripple has hired Skadden Arps, Mary Jo to defend that case. So are you really doing that for the defendant who lost $385? I don't think. The plaintiff who lost $385. Of course not. It's not worth the time or the money. Now, I'm not going to do a Jason raise your hands, but I believe most lawyers on here think the SAFT is a piece of junk. So.
Oh, it's not a piece of junk. It just is what it is. It's basically an investment contract. That's all.
Well,
no. We're talking about the lawyers. Like, what bothers me is, David, I agree with you, right? Like, you wouldn't take the case because you have other options. But some hotshot lawyer that wants to make a name for himself in this space may want to take this on, a case that he has no business taking on, and ruin it for, like, at least for others, having these things actually be securities, but not having the ability to argue it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a problem where it would be harder to overcome if someone loses one of these. So, for instance, if Ripple or Unikrn win their first round, it's actually harder to overcome. But it's a dagger. It's not an ultimate kill.
I'm going
to be the last guy in the world to say they shouldn't be entitled to file these things. But look, I had the opportunity to get involved in the Ripple case. It just economically, it was not feasible. I'm still, a small firm. I have the luxury of selecting my cases. Ripple was a hard one. Tezos, which Bill, thankfully can't comment on this. We were both part of the Tezos case. He's part of the lead team. That one was economically feasible for all of us to do. There's a reason why you see with each of these lawsuits, a lot of the same law firms jump in the pool because they see collectability at the end of the day.
But you would have wanted someone to walk into your office and prove to you that they lost $50 million in Ripple.
True, which at the time
you probably would have taken on that case.
Yes. But let's use Tezos, for instance. The lead plaintiff in Tezos lost I think $30,000, maybe a little less. And I mean, at today's rates, basically broke even. Bill, stay away. So, I mean, my clients in that case, most people, it was around $5,000 was like the average loss because they lost one Bitcoin at the time they put it in, which was about $5,000. I think someone put in 4 Bitcoin, which is ultimately 4 or 5 Bitcoin, which is what got the lead plaintiff. But in Ripple, I mean, it's a case for $1,000. It was virtually impossible to find plaintiffs. Now it's a little different.
Right, but now, you're right. Sorry. I gotta touch you. You're right. Now it is different. Now that Ripple is down 90% and potentially is going to go down another 50, 70%. Now, some of these plaintiffs that have lost millions are going to come out of the woodworks. But there was a case out there for a guy that lost $300.
Yeah, that's a problem. I tell the story. I had a third or fourth cousin contact me in December of 2017, begging me to figure out for them how they can invest in Ripple. And, I hadn't spoken to these people in 10 years. And all I said was, don't do it. It was like $1.50. I'm like, don't do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to give you any help to do it. But yeah, there's finally at least a pool of people now who have lost money. I'm starting to see cases where financial advisors are selling away from their houses, giving advice on cryptos. If it maintains in Main Streets, everyone's going to start giving advice on cryptos. So
is Adela still with us?
Kind of.
She's muted out.
Her living room is still with us.
All right, so back to Ravencoin, and this is one of the things that we talk about when we do this analysis. Who's in control? How does it get there? And markets, right? So Ravencoin is on Bittrex.
Well, not yet. Not yet. This was the document to get them on Bittrex, or this.
Oh no, they're on.
They're on
Bittrex. Oh, they're on. So I think this document helped get them on Bittrex. I know this document had something to do with it.
Right. So Ravencoin is on Bittrex. How the hell is Ravencoin on Bittrex?
Well, why not? Bittrex can trade any shitcoin.
Yeah, they paid the fee.
Right. Thank you.
I thought.
Thank you, David.
Wait, what's the question?
Right. Wait a minute. How do we know they paid the fee? Because Bittrex could put anything they like without the fee as well.
And
I could be playing guard for the New York Knicks.
Right. Like, no. But wait a minute. If Ravencoin is a legitimate proof of, Litecoin didn't pay no fee to get on Bittrex, right?
Well, that's because there was sufficient volume of Litecoin where Bittrex could make money on trades.
Well, wait. But Jason,
hold on. My original question was for Adela.
I want to be sure. Did they pay the fee to get on Bittrex, or Bittrex?
I don't know. The point is, under the SEC's analysis released by, what was the guy, David? What was his name?
From which one?
When he said Ethereum wasn't a security. That guy.
SEC guy?
Yeah.
Hinman,
thank you. So Hinman laid out an entire list of like 13 different items of the things that the SEC looks at, which happily coincided with something that I published a couple years ago. And one of the things that they look at is the participation in markets and who puts them in markets and where the markets are created, right? So if a cryptocurrency itself, sua sponte, appears on a market and wasn't created, supported, encouraged, or negotiated by the creators or holders of those coins, great. Then that's the baseball card argument, right? There's an entire market for baseball cards that Topps isn't involved in. So we don't look at the promoters or people like that trying to create a secondary exchange in order to create value. But the question I have is, and look, if somebody can show me that somehow Ravencoin, sua sponte, was listed on Bittrex, and that it wasn't coordinated, asked for, emailed by, texted by, or influenced at all by Bruce Fenton to get on Bittrex.
All right.
Then I'll start to say that that maybe Ravencoin isn't a security.
Jason, no. We have the live chat. People are saying there is no fee to list on Bittrex.
Great.
People are saying nothing was paid. Like, again, I don't know, right? I don't know the details, right?
Yeah, it's right on Bittrex's website that they don't charge a fee.
So
all the other ones do, but they. You have to give this legal opinion letter saying that it's not a security, and then they'll apparently list it. But they delisted several, like I think over 150 coins a few months ago. So
the question is, who petitioned to have it on the exchange?
That I don't know.
Right? And that's the question that the SEC asks. I know that because I've gone through the inquiries in New York with Jorge and Valerie and them sitting there drilling my clients, asking them at what point they asked to get on an exchange, how they got on those exchanges, and that kind of activity, that kind of participation, that kind of seeking secondary markets is something that the SEC looks at as proof that there is an investment contract, right? So, right? I mean, everybody's all butthurt about Howey. Everything is Howey. Everything's Howey. Howey is the start. Howey's not the stop. Howey's where we start this analysis.
All right, Jay. So before we get down here, so let's sum this up, right? So there are two ways. So if your coin gets listed on an exchange without you actually paying for it, and all you have to do is submit one of these letters like Pepe wrote to, try to convince them to list you without them having a financial benefit directly. Do you think that is problematic for the SEC? Obviously, the exchanges that are pay to play on, those would be. But what do you think about the scenario if Ravencoin did not have to pay Bittrex anything to get listed? They just had to, show them a letter from someone in the community.
The question is, who petitioned to have it on the exchange? Right? And that's the question that the SEC looks at as proof that there is an investment contract. So they just had to, show them a letter from someone in the community.
Well, first, let's just be clear. Now we're saying that that is a legal opinion letter, where that letter specifically says it's not a legal opinion letter. So I don't believe Bittrex gets to rely on something that's not. I'm also not convinced because they don't officially take a listing fee. They don't take something. So let's just, there's a variety of different things that we're talking about here. But more importantly, I'm desperately trying to find that Bittrex quote where Bittrex says what they rely on. And I don't believe that all Ravencoin did was give that letter from Pepe over and got on Bittrex.
I agree. And one other thing, didn't Bittrex in the Ripple complaint actually sell or participate? They were facilitating the ICO of Ripple, and same with some other coins. So whether or not they're taking a listing fee, they're certainly getting compensated somehow.
Yeah. Well, okay, the left hand or the right hand, it doesn't matter.
I can't believe I'm about to defend Ravencoin here, which is ridiculous, and potentially Bittrex, right? I mean, look. Considering the kind of scam coins that are listed on Bittrex right now, something like Ravencoin with someone like Bruce Fenton talking good things about it is probably something I would list for free on Bittrex if I ran Bittrex. Of all the other crap that on there to begin with.
Hold on, Tone.
Especially if it's just a proof of work coin.
I'm going to agree with Tone here because I don't usually, because this is one of these things with you. We're not, that's a separate conversation. You're saying if it's legal, if it's shit, you would list it. So would I. There's nothing wrong with the listing of it per se.
Right.
Legitimate, I think they should all be, any legitimate coin should be listed.
Well, but the word, David, but the word legitimate is subjective, right? Like I think that a coin that is 100% proof of work, without an insta-mine, without a mining skimming of rewards, with no POS, I think that coin is a blockchain, and I think it's legitimate. Now, just because it's legitimate doesn't mean that it deserves to be listed. But if it has someone, of stature in the community with a big following pimping it out, then yeah, me as a business of running Bittrex and collecting a fee on transaction fees of people of 12-year-olds trading the damn thing, yeah, I would list Ravencoin, and I wouldn't even charge them. If that was, but that might not even be their business model.
That's my point. Apparently, I have a lower standard than you. As long as in my mind, as long as it is low enough on the list of legitimacy, and you can define legitimate wherever you want, but I'm going to define it as, let's just say that the SEC actually gave clarity, and all of these coins were SEC endorsed and approved coins. They should all be on every exchange then. There should be no limitation.
Yeah, no, and I would say that if I ran one of these shitcoin exchanges, I would even list, like the crap like Ethereum. Like for me, as an exchange, the most important thing would be, do I trust in the developer team of that token that it's financially secure to not have the Cryptsy disaster, which you know all about?
Yeah, no,
that would be the number one criteria.
I think the issue though is, are you paying for determination of the legitimacy? If there's an independent, and I'll just say independent in air quotes, academic article that makes a determination, that's one thing. But if you're shopping opinions or you're paying to get listed, clearly there's an issue. Now, how does an exchange make that determination? I'm not 100% sure, and I think that's what we're struggling with right now. What influences the exchange to make that determination? I think that's the question.
So and that might be what Adela said. She got that email in error. Yeah. So they're relying on just a few law firms to take that risk.
Right. So if you pay for one of those law firms, and if you have enough cash to pay those law firms, rubber stamp, you're on that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I tell people all the time, hire a big firm. It's basically malpractice insurance. What's the difference between a $300 hour lawyer and a $600 hour lawyer? If you get thrown in jail, you can have a better malpractice case against the guy with a bigger carrier. So I don't mind that some of these firms are doing it. But then what you're saying, Manny, is you give a clap on the back to Coinbase for turning down Ripple's money.
Yeah, I'm just saying how legitimate is that reliance, right? I mean, if you're buying an opinion, or if someone is not being transparent of why they're writing a pseudo or so-and-so, academic, quote unquote, academic piece, but they have a vested conflict or an inherent conflict. I mean, that's what I'm calling into question. There's just not a lot of transparency in these processes. Shopping and legal opinion, understandable process. The point is, to what extent does an exchange rely upon that legal opinion that they know, was shopped around? Does the exchange have a requirement to independently on their own make a level of the, legitimacy? I don't know.
So if you look at the risk mitigation function that the exchange is trying to accomplish, right? They want to be able to say, SEC, here's my file. I'm opening up my file, and here's all the coins that are listed on our exchange, and here's all the letters we have that say that these are not securities. And you'll see that every coin that's listed has a letter associated with it. We relied on self-determination and the experts of lawyers. We didn't rely on our own opinion. We're not conflicted here. We're not deciding. We're not making these decisions based on our own analysis, because if they were doing it on their own analysis, then that would subject their in-house counsel or that exchange to some form of potential fine, et cetera. But where we're crossing the line in that regulatory arbitrage, if you will, by pushing to the coin to provide the letter that says that they're not a security, I don't know if that exchange is actually doing the appropriate diligence at that point in time to be able to comply with the law that says that they're not selling unlicensed, unregistered securities.
Oh, great. But let's draw a comparison to NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. You want to get listed on an exchange, you clearly need opinions of counsel, and you need independent opinions of counsel. But that respective exchange has their own requirement statutorily to determine what criteria are needed to list on that exchange, one of which is an independent opinion of counsel. That is the conundrum that we're in. We don't know what requirements that exchange has, and if they have any internal listing requirements that they need to go through, or they're wholly relying upon a legal opinion, that could be problematic.
And Manny,
well, and I guarantee you, not a single one of them is a legal opinion. I don't know one lawyer that will actually write an actual legal opinion.
True.
On this. They might write a memorandum, but not a legal opinion.
True.
So that's something else that I actually kind of wanted to bring up. The exchanges used to just take memos, but now they're asking for opinions, which is odd when you really think about it. So I think one way that things have kind of, sort of evened out in the whole liabilities scale is that, you could issue a memo, and a memo seems to be quite in line with the regulatory environment. Seeing that, we're dealing with laws from the 30s and we appear in, 2018 and shit, right? And they do not speak directly to crypto securities. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I kind of think one thing Manny just said about the listing requirements on NASDAQ, it's not directly to this, but I think one of the big things that a company has to show is financial records for 2 years at least. And they have to show that they have sufficient money in their bank account, their own criminal record, like they have to give their fingerprints in. Like there's so much diligence that goes into getting listed on NASDAQ that here, all we're doing is saying, pay a bit of money that you raised in your ICO to give, get this letter and we'll let you on. And that's why we're having all these exit scams, because there's no accountability between, what's needed to get on the exchanges.
Hey, can I just jump in here real quick? We're getting some awesome comments in the troll box. So Jason, you should be debarred.
Yes, of course. I don't even know if I could be debarred. But
also, apparently we have pumped Ravencoin by 1% since we started this discussion. And also,
I should probably disclose I own Ravencoin.
I actually
should have at the beginning.
People are wondering if any of you lawyers are Bitcoin holders. I'm assuming you all are. And we have one more question by show of hands because I really like it. So in your opinion, and I will raise my hand as well, is Ripple a security? Raise your hand if you feel that, if you think that Ripple is a security.
Wait, in my opinion or in my memo?
In your opinion. Right. You can still defend Ripple, sit alongside Mary Jo White that it's not a security, but in your opinion...
Wait, do I think it's a security? Do I think they're going to find it to be a security?
No, do you think, your opinion, You can have a case to defend why it's not, but do you think it's a security?
No, I think it's a security, but I think
Right.
they're going to say it's not a security.
That's fine. But like, do you think it's a security?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm
No, ish.
Okay, so we got we're missing half. So everybody and Jason's a
Here's
half.
what you have to remember, and Tone, you and I have done this many times. Okay.
Which is why I'm comfortable calling it a security, and now you are not.
No. Look.
That's because he's getting disbarred.
Yeah.
Right?
No, debarred.
Sorry.
Do I have a bar?
That's impossible.
Sounds like
The bar.
Oh, wait. We have a hand.
You know, every time he reaches for that damn piece of a 3D printed like mini like toy gun, his damn thing freezes.
Hey Della, if I send you a Silver Miller hat next week, will you wear it?
Well, I have a fee that.
I mean, are you representing Drew today?
Yeah. I love these guys, Athena. They're a great company. You guys should look them up, check them out. You know, yeah.
Okay, so let's finish up. We didn't really talk about Mark Cuban's Unikrn. Hey, Jason, you're back. I was just saying, every time you reach for that piece from a 3D printer, your camera freezes.
I know, right? So I've got a handle now, and I've got a barrel. So what I was going to say, Tone, and we've talked about this before, and this is why I have said multiple times that depending on the circumstances, any one of these coins. What's that say?
Show off.
Show off.
Oh, wait, Adela, you gotta say something. Was that for the audience or was that just for us? So now you're muted.
She's muted.
I'm sorry, I just said everything. I'm sorry you guys didn't hear it.
The audience didn't see what you were holding, just so you know.
Do you want me to hold it up again?
Well, I didn't see it either. And say something.
Oh, show off. It says show off. So here's what I was going to say. And for all the people losing their shit in the troll box, look, and it's pretty hilarious. I mean, there's some people really losing their shit in there.
And by the way, the ones that are losing their shit the most are the Ravencoin developers, apparently.
I know. It's funny. So look, Bill, you and I can do a transaction together and it's not a security. David, you and I can do a transaction and it's a security. And we've transacted in the same utility token, right? Because David, you're actually going to use it to try to tokenize something and try to use it as its utility in the Ravencoin network. And Bill, you're only using it for the purposes of holding on to it when the market goes up. And so between you and I, it's a security, and between David and I, it's a utility token transaction. And that happens every single day. And that happens every day in the crypto community space, that some people are getting it for the utility, some people are getting it for the investment purposes. What happens and what we need to look at is, depending upon the circumstances, is who's promoting it. And that's when you talk about vertical and horizontal commonality. This is, how we test version or step 10 when we go beyond just Howie, is what are the promoters saying and how are they promoting it and who are they promoting it to? So promoters can be a group of people. Promoters can be devs that are working with Bittrex to try to get it listed. Because at the end of the day, what the SEC will say is, if it's a pure utility token, you don't need to be on a fucking exchange. Just sell your token. Sell it off your website.
That's what I always said.
Right? And so the only reason you want it on an exchange is so that it'll go up in value and it'll be speculated on. So all you Ravencoin shitcoiners out there that are sitting here busting my balls, ask yourself this question. Why do you want it on an exchange? It's not so that you'll increase your ability for the utility token to be distributed. You can put that on your own goddamn website and people can buy it all day long if they want to buy your shitcoin to do whatever your utility token does. But if the reason you want it on that exchange is so that it'll go up in value, that's where you're crossing the line. That's where the government
Liquidity,
regulation
Jason.
comes in.
Like people were buying Raven on Discord months ago, and there were a ton of scams on there. People were getting, unless you were using an escrow, you could lose your money really easily. Having it, whether Bittrex is a great exchange or not, it at least gives some liquidity to it and makes it easier than buying and selling the thing on Discord.
Look, I can put a smart contract. I can put a link, I can put a request on a website right now, on my own website right now, for somebody to buy directly from me, right? I don't have to go through an exchange if I want to sell a utility token. I can sell it direct off my own page. And that's the reality. And that's the measure of what the SEC looks at, is if you're a true utility token, why are you on an exchange?
Here, wait a second. Fake Pepe wants to call you out.
Great.
If fake Pepe wants to call me, I'm prepared to put him on the line. He can confirm himself.
Well,
he also thinks he looks like Ed Harris. So you might actually have some points, valid points here, you know.
Well, that might be the actual Douglas Pepe that wrote that thing. That could be just a troll that just created a YouTube account for the purpose of the troll chat.
No, that's my point. I said if he calls me up and can validate, I was willing to give him the time of day.
Oh, yeah. If you want to prove that you're the real Pepe, we will gladly have you on the show. Hey, Jason, okay, fine. So now it goes back to your half hand up.
Yeah, which means some people are actually going to use Ripple. Some people are actually going to use Ripple for what it's supposed to be used for, right? Bank transfers and
it's debatable.
And some people are going to use it for speculation. That's why I said ish.
That's not debatable. It's debatable.
But I don't know how you can have any kind of clarity in the marketplace, right? Either as an investor or as an issuer. And that's why I think that when we really start to get into these esoteric debates, I'm going to watch what I say because I'm counsel in some cases. But I definitely think that there is some further regulation that does not fall under the CFTC or under the SEC that is probably better suited at the end of the day for this. Now, until that happens, we're going to be sitting here debating whether or not something is a this or is a that. But at the same time, and we can't pretend that these instruments that they exist in a regulatory black hole or that no law applies to them. Laws clearly apply. You know, and until we have something that was designed specifically for these instruments, we're going to be forever in flux over what they really should be characterized as.
I want to, thanks, Bill. And that was great. I just want to jump in there as well on something Jason said. You just explained real well the point that I've been trying to drive to a lot of these conferences, audience of these conferences for years, that if the utility token / security made sense, Amazon would be accepting Amazon stock on their website, which they don't.
Right.
I said that, I mean, I'm with you. I say this at every conference. This was a good idea. People would be picking it up and running with it. They're going to let the market figure it out for themselves. You know, there's no need to rush into this at the moment because, look, Amazon would love for you to use Amazon dollars for every Amazon product that you had to pre-buy an Amazon dollar to spend. Be the best thing for them.
Maybe the Winklevoss's new virtual commodity association will figure it out.
Hey, I offered to work for them. Winklevi, if you're watching, I'm here for you.
There you go. Shout out.
Listen, I think that, you know, I'm gonna take it right back to Libertarian 101, right? Adult individuals have the right and responsibility to decide important matters about their own lives and without infringing on the rights of others, right? And the government's role should be to secure those rights and not to grant them. So ultimately, I don't want to see more regulation. I just want to see better regulation. I'm concerned about the scammers. I'm concerned about people actually relying on others. Whether it's, you know, Bruce Fenton or Roger Ver or anybody, any promoter, right? I'm not saying that either one of those people are, but Vitalik, doesn't matter. Ultimately, people do get scammed. And that's why I think it's imperative that our regulators really streamline the shit out. Like, we out here in 2018, you know, we have blockchains and shit. Like, we're dealing with laws from the 1930s. And Jason has a really great analogy that he uses about jars of salsa. Right, Jay?
Yeah.
That he uses to kind of describe where, you know, some of these things possibly fit. It's a very, very, very thin line given the current regulations. And like our homeboy with the Burning Man t-shirt said, I really think we need laws that really speak to this. I think it's imperative. I really think the government is kind of like fucked up. Our regulators are fucking up by not allowing this area to grow in the way that it should. There's just too much mystery and shit right now.
Isn't that counterintuitive? Aren't you arguing that they are allowing it to grow? The regulators really haven't done anything yet. We're in year 3, maybe 4.
I mean, come on. They're having fines. They're having cease and desist.
Yeah, but not against any.
I mean, we don't live in a banana republic with a dictator, arguably, right? Like, people shouldn't get shot down because they're trying to create something like some sort of like widespread, takeover. I mean, I think there should be room for people to grow. I think it would just be nice to know how you can and how you can't.
But no, my point being that, and I always advocate for that, clarity in the space is needed. I'm not arguing against clarity, but I think the people who argue that that the government so far is stopping or hindering development, the government has done the opposite of that. They have almost to a fault not gotten involved yet to let the space grow on its own.
I think that's right.
So if it was up to me, I mean, just use BitConnect, for instance. The government can come in today and do something against BitConnect. I mean, here was just a blatant fraud. They haven't even done the blatant fraud yet. So let alone the controversial issues in the space. So I'm almost saying that the government is taking a small but reasoned measure by going after some low-hanging fruit to create some clarity. I don't think it's enough clarity, but I think they should be doing more, and I expect them in the next year or two to do a lot more, and some of it's going to be simultaneous.
All right. It looks like Pepe may or may not come in here. Trying to figure that out. Can anybody reach him? I can have him email me. I think my email is already
the real one. And Crypto Batman, what arbitrage are you talking about?
I should probably open up my email to see if he's going to email me. Hold on.
There are so many Ravencoin honks that are just losing their shit right now.
Right,
it's so funny.
Right.
I just like that all the anger is on Jason.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
Shocker.
Actually, really try to do
Texas.
something controversial and see what happens.
Yeah, and this is why I hate.
I haven't said anything controversial yet.
Right.
Dude, you built a gun.
And this is where I have
Actions
a
are
problem. Wait, I
speech.
got Douglas Pepe emailed me. All right, let me. I'll send him the link. Hold on.
To his office email.
Wow.
Look,
I'll pull up his photo so we can make
Jason's
sure it's
getting
the
in
real him.
trouble.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Listen, let's bring Mr. Pepe Esquire on. I really want to hear what he has to say. I want to understand,
Oh.
why
Can we talk about how
exactly he wants to be on an exchange.
Can we talk about how his name is amazing? Did we do that already?
I mean, I want to know if he's actually created any rare Pepes. I have. I mean,
All right.
What Pepe did you make?
I actually have 2 Pepes that are listed. I'm gonna get them out. One of them is this is the original. This is the Segwit Pepe in the hand-drawn category, right? And then the most famous one, obviously, is the Dr. Dirty Pepe. Oh, I did create remember the 21 butt box?
Yes.
I made a 21 Pepe.
Yeah, somebody made a Pepe of me with the axe and the machete, and it was never created into a real Pepe.
I've created quite a few Pepes, but I got 2 of them listed.
Wait. Okay. So before Mr. Pepe, before Mr. Pepe comes on our show, any final words on the Mark Cuban thing? I know I brought it up in the screen share, but no one really said anything.
Yeah, I wanted to ask how they're getting jurisdiction because that company is based in Bermuda. And I think there's a caveat that if more than 50% of your people are based in America, then you can still, I know for taxes at least, you can still attach. So I was just curious other people's understanding of that.
Well, wait a minute. From my discussions with the Pepe artist over there on the stream, even if you have like one investor that's an American, you could be subject to American security regulation.
Yeah, that's an easy one. PLSRA.
Oh wait, Jason, they can't see that right now. You have
I know, but this is the big one. This is the Dr. Dirty Pepe. Everybody knows Dr. Dirty from the Raul Dirty from the old dojo. This was.
Oh yeah. Is he still working over at Exotica?
Yeah, he's working with Exotica, and he's over, I think, in Romania. But he and I used to go at it. Shocker, right? Every time we'd be in the dojo together, it was flame time. And so he just kept saying, it's all about scripts. It's about scripts. So I gave him a PhD in scriptology and then immortalized him in a fucking Pepe. And he sent me a screenshot of his girlfriend looking at his Pepe. And he was like, thank you. I'm like legit now. And my girlfriend realizes that I'm famous because I'm now immortalized in a fucking pencil drawing of a Pepe. So it was pretty awesome.
All right, so let's get back to the Mark Cuban thing.
No, Pepe, he's coming on, right?
Well, hopefully. I emailed him the Zoom link. I just got a reply back from him.
To his law firm.
He can't use the link in his firm. He can call in, and I can put him in my phone. All right, so I'm gonna dial him, and I'm gonna put the phone on speaker next to my microphone.
Sasha, to answer your questions, the PLSRA, as long as you sell to one person in the U.S., you're U.S. bound. Also, on Mark Cuban, let's not confuse a Mark Cuban-backed entity, meaning he invested $1, with something Mark Cuban's actively involved in.
Right. But David, I understand that you can attach jurisdiction by, selling to them, but do they have to sue them? I thought they would have to sue them in Bermuda as a company.
Tezos says Switzerland.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. It's called in the U.S. All I care about is one U.S. citizen who bought it in the U.S.
And then you can sue the company in the U.S. too?
Yeah. Minimum contacts. International shoe.
Wow. Taking this way back.
Quoting cases.
All right, guys. Mr. Pepe is on the line.
Excellent. Bring him in.
Okay, so you're on speaker. Let me raise the volume here. I could actually attach a real speaker to this. So can you guys hear him? Douglas?
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I watched the broadcast. I think you guys are great. There was a lot that was said about my memo and about Ravencoin that I think you may be a little misguided on. So I figured I'd call in and give you the facts.
Oh, please.
Awesome.
All right, so first of all, Ravencoin had no ICO. It's a proof of work coin. It's a cryptocurrency. It's not a token. It's not promoted by anyone. There are backers and supporters, but every Ravencoin from the beginning of Ravencoin to today has been mined. There was no pre-mine, there was no insta-mine, there was no ICO. There is no Ravencoin company. Nobody's promoting it. I was a member of the community basically mining some Ravencoin because I like the concept of it. Ravencoin is basically used to create asset tokens without using any of the ERCs. It's an efficient way to create asset tokens using the fork of the Bitcoin chain. I like the community. I like what they were about. And I'm a lawyer. They were going about as a community, which doesn't have any money from a pre-mine or an ICO. They were going about trying to hire counsel and couldn't get counsel because they couldn't raise the fund. They started a legal fund that was funded by miners. And when I saw that this was done, I decided, hey, I can do this. I understand the law. I can help them out. And I can do it for free. So what I did was I wrote that memo that has been described as toilet paper.
That was me. That was me, by the way.
Turned down $1 million Ravencoin bounty in order to do it. So those are the facts. The notion that Ravencoin is a security is laughable. And if you knew the facts about Ravencoin, I don't think you would be saying the things that you were saying.
Wow, it sounds like you're offended.
Yeah,
I've never had a legal opinion of mine described as toilet paper by somebody who barely read it.
Wait a minute. Are you actually calling this a legal opinion?
If anyone would like to sue me thinking that Ravencoin is not a security,
No. The question is, are you declaring this to be a legal opinion?
It is what it is. It's an article that I wrote that was used for purposes of getting on an exchange where the exchange itself reviewed the article, analyzed it, made their own legal judgment about it, and then ultimately decided to list the coin.
Okay, so there's a difference.
Mr. Pepe,
go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for coming on. This is a really awesome space.
No problem. I love the program, other than the parts about me and my opinion.
Hey! Listen, this is a very philosophical issue in some ways. And why are we here? We're here to learn from each other, and to go over things where ambiguity lies. So please don't get offended or heated. Explain to us, really, educate us and let us know. That's all we want to do, is understand the process that you've used.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that part because of the speakerphone.
Do you want to tell him, Tone, what I said?
No, just repeat it one more time. He should be able to hear it, because just say one more time. If not, I'll repeat it.
Yeah. So, Mr. Pepe, we're here to learn from each other, especially in a space with so many ambiguities. So we're not here to attack you, and we're happy that you came on and you've come on to explain this to us. So you don't have to get emotional or defensive. Really, we just want to understand your process.
Oh, no, great. I'm not offended. I just wanted to call you up and give you the facts.
Yeah, no, I'm actually happy that that's exactly what I thought Ravencoin was. So I did defend you guys, as ironic as that sounds, because I'm the biggest hater of altcoins. But Jason, so you were inquiring about how this is a legal opinion, and then your view that by wanting to list it on an exchange, you're almost giving that reason for people to own it as an investment, not as a utility.
So let's look just for a moment at why people get Ravencoin. Can you explain to me why I would want Ravencoin?
Yes. So Ravencoin is a cryptocurrency that has a use case, and the use case for Ravencoin is to purchase the right to create asset tokens that are used and reposited on the blockchain using opcodes.
So it's basically counterparty. It would be that it's Bitcoin.
It's not the same as counterparty. It's similar, and it's frankly a little bit better than counterparty. But what it does is it allows you to take 500 Raven, you send it to a burn address, and an asset gets created. This functionality is only on testnet right now. It's going to be out in October. But that's the principal use case and function of Ravencoin, the cryptocurrency, which is to burn 500 in order to create assets. Then the assets can be exchanged, and they can have any sort of features associated with them. They could be securities, they could be non-securities, they could be lemonade stand is the type of asset that's listed in the white paper. But that's what Ravencoin does. It's a cryptocurrency with a clear and defined use.
Okay, so great. Why not just sell it on a website then?
I couldn't hear that, sorry.
Oh, he said, why not just sell it on a website?
It was, I wouldn't say that it was sold on websites. It was exchanged person to person early on in the history of the coin. I see no reason why a classic, no ICO, no pre-mined cryptocurrency that has been mined from the Genesis block by a decentralized network of miners shouldn't be listed on an exchange. Ravencoin's unique. One of the reasons I wrote this is because Ravencoin is one of the unique ones out there. It's the real deal, and it's the reason that I wrote that opinion for free. I don't work for free typically, other than classic pro bono cases. I did this because I believe in the coin and the project and what it's doing.
Okay, so I just want to
let me ask a question.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean, Doug, but let me ask you that because, and this is, I think, where Jason and I have some issue with what you're saying. You're saying that you typically don't work for free, meaning that this is work product. And the original conversation was about whether or not someone who's invested in the community and invested in Ravencoin should be writing, and whether you want to call it an opinion letter or not, an opinion piece that was used by Bittrex to get on for the opinion that it's not a security.
Yeah, look, here's the beauty of decentralized projects. Anyone can consider what I wrote for what it's worth, and if you agree with the analysis, you can agree with the analysis. If you disagree with the analysis, feel free to disagree. Nobody used this for anything. It was an informational document that ultimately Bittrex made its own judgment on.
Yeah.
But the notion, honestly, the notion that
come on. Who sent the document to Bittrex?
Let me sum up what David was trying to nicely say. What they're saying is, since you do not work for free, but you are a member of the Ravencoin community, so it's safe to assume you are holding Ravencoin, and you would benefit financially by having this coin listed on all of the exchanges. So in fact, you could actually make more on what your volunteer work than if someone actually paid you.
I mined Ravencoin to learn about the project. I've been mining it since, about midway through the spring with a very small number of miners. And just to give you a sense, first of all, I turned down more Ravencoin than I own. Secondly, I lost money when it got listed because the price went down. Third, that's not the reason I did this. And if anyone would like the Ravencoin that I have, you can feel free to, call me up and I'll give them to you at whatever the price was that they existed the day before the exchange listing occurred. That's not what this is about. I did this because I believe in the project.
Anybody want to?
Let me just back up just for a second.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
So obviously, as a lawyer, you're aware of conflicts of interest, right?
I represent law firms that give opinion letters, including the opinion letter in the largest case in the country about the question whether a particular certificate of deposit was a security.
Right. So just from the surface, you understand that at that prima facie level, you holding Ravencoin, having an interest in Ravencoin, being a miner of Ravencoin, and then submitting the letter that gets used to list Ravencoin on an exchange, that's prima facie conflict of interest.
No, it's not. Do you write articles about Bitcoin?
Do I write articles about Bitcoin? Sure.
Yeah. Do you own Bitcoin?
Sure. But I don't write articles about Bitcoin that gets people or Bitcoin listed on exchanges. I write
an article about the question whether Ravencoin is a security.
Yeah, which had a direct impact on its listing on an exchange.
If you want to write an article disagreeing that Ravencoin is a security, post it right next to mine.
Yeah, but I guess the concern is, and first of all, thank you.
I don't represent Ravencoin. I don't represent anyone. I wrote an article.
But that's the question. Is it an article or is it a memo or an opinion or that's where I'm confused. Like, is it an academic article? Like, what is your perspective to write the article as an attorney, a New York attorney? What is it?
The question whether Ravencoin is a security. It's an article. It's styled as an article. It was posted as an article. I was going to publish it as an article, but then I decided, it was probably too limited because it only represents one cryptocurrency. So then 2 weeks later, I wrote an article about utility tokens and published it.
But it has some persuasive ability because it's from a New York attorney. So I'm struggling with the fact that it could be an article that's published as an academic piece. The fact that you're an attorney, I just think confounds that.
I write articles all the time. This is one of
people use to get listed on an exchange. I mean, look at the intention behind the use of that article. If you write an article that's published in a periodical or something, but to be used as the basis to get listed on an exchange.
Yes, I wrote an article that was reviewed by Bittrex's outside counsel in order to, as one piece of information, in order to determine whether they were going to list it.
Let me ask you a question. Did you write the article knowing that it was the intended use of it would be for what we just described?
Yeah, I wrote the article because one of the prerequisites to listing on several exchanges was that they needed an opinion of counsel. I did not give an opinion of counsel because there was no client to be had. So I wrote an article and posted it, and then said anybody who wants to use this article can use it for what it's worth.
Jason,
let's give Doug his due props, man. I appreciate him coming on. I think he just gave an honest answer. And everyone, and this is what I think we're going back to, what was his name? The gun guy?
Cody Wilson.
Cody. What I respect most, and, you know, Adela was saying this, dude, this is the whole point of this is everyone can give their opinions. He's got his opinion. We all have a different opinion maybe. But, you know, at the end of the day, props for doing what you did. We can agree to disagree. And that's the beauty of what's going on. You listened to the show and you called in. What more can we ask for?
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on. And look, if you read the opinion and you disagree with anything I wrote, feel free to email me. Maybe I'll change it. But I stand by what I wrote, and I was happy to do it.
No, Douglas, it's not that we disagree with what you wrote. In fact, most of us on the show think that the way Ravencoin was designed and created is actually not a security.
That's correct, and I'm included in that.
The disagreement, well, maybe not Jason.
No, I agree. The way Ravencoin was
the disagreement is the fact that you were the one that wrote it, not what was written.
And actually, I didn't write it, then what would have happened was the community would have gone out and had to raise a bunch of money to get another lawyer to write an opinion. It would have happened because Ravencoin is not a security. I was trying to help people, and I tried to help it for free.
No. If that was to happen, and I'm the only non-lawyer on this program, if that was to happen, then it would have been a slam dunk that it's a security. The fact that you did it as a volunteer puts it in this weird gray area that is causing this discussion.
Yeah, there's nothing gray about it. I think the discussion's uninformed.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I go back to what you just said. But you just said you did it because no one else would write the opinion. I agree with you. That's why you did it. You felt that there was no one else. You did it because you wanted to.
Well, no, David, there was 1 million Ravencoin out there for whoever would write it. He actually turned it down, which I somewhat respect. But if he did take that, but I believe if Pepe took that, Mr. Pepe, I love that name, by the way. I absolutely love it. If you were to take that 1 million Ravencoin, it would have been, again, grossly obvious that you're doing it, you know, for financial gain. So you did your best possible work to make sure that it doesn't look like a duck, smell like a duck, and, you know, walk like a duck. But the lawyer, myself included, and the lawyers on this program are still not convinced. Do I have that summed up correctly? Do you guys want to chime in on this?
So this is Jason. Again, thanks for coming on. And yes, I did say that the article that you wrote was toilet paper. I do want to say that prior to saying that, what I did say is that I thought it was a perfect example, and Sasha and I actually talked about this offline, that the way that it was written, the things that were quoted, the construction of the document was all very good. And I think, Sasha, you may recall that we discussed that. She's nodding her head.
Yes.
And the number one thing that I brought up was the conflict of interest that was involved, and that it did not take into account any of the social media aspects, the words that were being said, the community statements, the way that it was being advertised. And to create a document like this that ignores the realities of the scenario and how it's being advertised and how it's being marketed in the community, kind of fails the standards of the true analysis when we're talking about, you know, statements of promoters. Like it or not, Bruce is a promoter. Tron Black is a promoter. You yourself are now a promoter. You're advertising it and you're facilitating the way that the coin is interpreted. So you can have a decentralized community, but you can have de facto leaders that step up and start leading that community to the point to where it's no longer decentralized. For example, Vitalik can say that he doesn't control Ethereum, but everybody knows whatever Vitalik says is what happened. So what I would have liked to have seen in your article is a review of social statements, a review of the network to where there's consistent statement that it's not an investment, that it's being used for these things, that the Ravencoin itself, not the token that it can create, but the Ravencoin itself is specifically used in order to be a function of creating these tokens, as it says in the white paper. But instead, what I saw is your document, which admits that you're conflicted, you're a member of the community, and doesn't take into account any of the statements that are made by any of the promoters or the intent of use.
I think that would be,
that's the failure.
Good point. That probably would be, one of the issues with a crypto like Ravencoin, from my perspective, is that it's sort of the paradigm that's developed over the past 2 years in the law in this space, developed out of necessity. And what it involved was a lot of ICOs, a lot of things called quote unquote tokens, most of them baked off of Ethereum. Ravencoin is a very different animal. The tokens in Ravencoin are the tokens that are created by Ravencoin. Ravencoin itself is a pure crypto, and it didn't have a pre-mine, it didn't have an ICO. So
as you said,
the notion of a promoter in this context really just paradigmatically doesn't make any sense.
Well, except, hold on a second. You said that when you were mining in the spring, that you were one of a few people that were mining with a small set of miners, right?
No, I said I had a small set of miners. There were a ton of miners.
I doubt that.
I think it had like two terahash at the time.
That seems unreasonably high. If that is true, then there is a small number of miners that are mining a lot of Ravencoin for themselves, and then it's not very decentralized at all. And
that's the point that I was going to.
Greatly profit on the back end. Might not be you, but somebody sure as hell will, because somebody's putting up that 1 million Ravencoin. I have no idea how much each Ravencoin is worth. Maybe you can.
Today it's worth 2 cents. 2 cents per coin.
Okay, so that's okay. So that's
worth about 275 sets.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, this is another reason why we don't like talking about specific tokens on the show, because we want to pump them. But my opinion of Ravencoin is like it's no different than any other fork, and it's totally useless. And again, the promoters of these coins, like Litecoin, like Monero, they may think they're doing something good, but at the end of the day, I think they're just scamming the community by pushing people into investments that are, well, useless and unsustainable, but that could be opinion.
Yeah, look, I think that's an opinion, and reasonable people can disagree about those opinions. I don't know Bruce Fenton. I don't know Tron Black. I don't know what their motivations were. Everything that I have come to know as a user of the Ravencoin protocol, I like everything I hear.
So what are you actually using it for? What are you using Ravencoin for?
I plan to generate tokenized assets on the chain.
Well, plan to. What are you using it for now?
I'm holding it.
So are you expecting the value of this token to go up?
I am when it's when the tokenized asset generation feature in October comes into play, sure. But maybe it won't.
I have to say, I love the look on Adela's face right now. I love the look on her face.
Sorry, were you talking about me, Jason?
No, Adela. I just love the look on her face. She's just.
Do we have anything more to add here, or have we done enough damage?
Look, my bottom line on this is I understand that you all have been living in a world of ICOs. You've been living in a world of people going out and scamming community members. I like the Bitcoin model. One of the reasons I started with Ravencoin is because I heard it was it's a direct fork of Bitcoin. And it was predicated software fork, not a chain fork. And it was, I think it was fairly mined, fairly issued. I think there was no ICO. I like what they're doing. I think it's going to be a good product. And if it ends up not being a good product, then, I had some fun for a couple of months. But in terms of the legal opinion, the notion that Ravencoin is a security, from my perspective, is almost laughable. If Ravencoin is a security, then everything is a security.
Except Bitcoin.
Actually,
it's Bitcoin as we're sitting here right now. It is Bitcoin. It's got one minute blocks. It's got 21 billion coins instead of million. But other than that, the code is Bitcoin.
I know what you want to say, Jason. Are you going to say it or no?
No. Listen,
I think we should have him come on the show. One like next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he wants to, I think we should have him come on and really just kind of,
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was reading a little bit of your CV that's listed at the end of your article.
Yep.
And it says that you speak and write on blockchain technology and legal issues. Yeah.
Yep.
So great. I'd love to pick your brain. Love to have you contribute to this community, to this show.
Yeah, it'd be great. I'm glad to be on the show. I'm speaking at the Federal Bar Council in Connecticut in October. If anybody wants to come with some regulators on a panel for crypto, it's sort of a new. I've been involved in the space as a minor for a while, but in terms of the legal issues, I followed it over the years. But this was the first thing that I personally wrote that was about a specific coin. So I've enjoyed this process, and I've enjoyed being on the show with you. And if you want to have me back, I'm happy to come back.
All right. Well, I have your email, and we'll reach out. I hope you have Telegram. That's kind of how we organize.
Yep.
Perfect. So we will be able to get you on a show, and we can bring this up again when on a future episode.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Hey, am I mistaken, or did I accidentally get him to admit to security fraud?
Not to the fraud part.
I think you're mistaken.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I really
You got him to admit that he wants the price to go up, and that's why he's holding it. But I don't think that, like the Howie thing, the whole prongs, it needs a common enterprise and an investment of money. So the fact that he wants it to go up in value does not make it a security.
Tone, it's
to go up.
It's so funny with Tone, you give him an inch and he makes us.
Yeah. Takes one little comment. That's securities fraud.
So what you've got is, kind of a complex situation, right? One of the things that Hinman talked about and that we kind of lost our shit about was the designation that Ethereum was so decentralized that it could no longer be under the management and control portion of the Howey test, which anybody that understands the technology, understands what's going on with Ethereum, knows that that's laughable, right? It's almost impossible to run a node right now. It's very centralized. Vitalik controls everything. Whatever he says goes. It's kind of laughable, right? But now, because that article came out, you have all these guys talking about how decentralized things is. It's like the soup du jour, right? The specs on decentralization don't necessarily matter when it comes to the analysis of the regulator, right? What matters is what is the reality of the situation. So when you look at Glenn Turner, they talked about how the utility token in that case was the motivational tape that was being sold. And they tried to say that some other guy, right, some other salesperson was convincing another person to buy tapes, and that Glenn Turner himself wasn't responsible, the organization wasn't responsible, because we had these multi-layers of sales that were going on, and it wasn't really the efforts of others, it was the efforts of this own guy that was relied upon. So what the SEC said, and I agreed with the court on this, was that there's a certain point where the reality of this scenario is that the efforts of someone else, regardless of what you have done, are the key factors. So for example, in SEC v. Glenn Turner, which was the Dare to Be Great program, they'd created the curriculum, they'd created the software, they created the coin, they created the tapes, they created the entire environment for people to be able to sell tapes, right? And so what the court said was, regardless of the efforts of the salesperson to distribute these tapes, and in this case, when it comes to utility tokens, to distribute the coin, right? regardless of that scenario, the ultimate reality was it was the efforts of Glenn Turner and the head of Glenn Turner that established that promotion commonality. So in this case, we have Ravencoin. I'm just going to call Ravencoin and do the analysis of putting Ravencoin and Glenn Turner next to each other. So Ravencoin is Fenton and Black, and sure, they forked Bitcoin. Awesome. They made it an ASIC resistant miner, maybe, so that people that held old GPUs could jump in. And there was a huge market for that. I considered doing that last year, an ASIC resistant deal, because I wanted the little guy to have the opportunity to get coin. So now you've created a market for ASIC resistant coin manufacture that includes elements of counterparty that's supposed to do asset control. That's the selling point. Why would anybody want to get Ravencoin? Because it's just another fork of Bitcoin, right? But we've made it better. It's ASIC resistant and you can make assets. Awesome. So they set it up, they created it, they published it, they released it. Now what you've got, you got this entire community that's going, yeah, Moon, right? Awesome. I'm not going to pump my fist in the air and say BitConnect, but it may as well be BitConnect, right? And sorry, I think I just killed Adela. She's dead over there. Right. So now that you've got the BitConnect of Bitcoin being Ravencoin at this point in time, you've got these folks that are really excited about it. Obviously, they want it to go on an exchange so that it will have liquidity and so that there will be a market for it. But a utility token is not required to be on an exchange for it to be a utility token. The whole purpose of this is to create something that can create tokenized assets later. You don't need an exchange for that. That's a specific service. You can set up a fucking website and you can do that all day long. You don't need that to be decentralized. You don't need that to be on an exchange. Ravencoin itself doesn't need to be on an exchange. Maybe the tokenized assets that you create make sense to go on an exchange because those are the assets that you're trying to trade.
Okay, Jason, not to cut you off,
right?
But I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah. Am I wrong?
I got to leave, people. I got to do a little work today before I start my drinking. Watch CNBC tonight, 6 o'clock.
Yeah. We didn't get to. I mean, David, you were all over the news, man. You got 2 minutes for me, and then we'll go back to Jason. I'm sorry.
I got 2 minutes. I got to print something out for my depots.
All right. So right here, let's go straight to this. Okay. So the Monkey Capital case. Daniel Harrison. I've actually met Daniel Harrison when I was out in Thailand a few years ago. He lost by default, didn't show up to court.
So his 2 companies got defaulted. The judge entered judgment against the 2 companies. He actually wrote a letter to the court explaining why he's being persecuted and he's the equivalent to Jesus Christ. So there's a judgment against the 2 companies. The judge signed the order on Friday, actually, for about $1.5 million. And Daniel's case is still going on. I expect he's going to default out in about a month or 2. But he now disavows any association with the companies that raised the money and that he controlled the companies. But the court issued an order saying that he was in full control. It's actually one of the first PLSRA cases that a judge has actually ruled in favor of the plaintiff on the PLSRA case in context of an ICO. Now, it's a default, so it's not worth as much, and until I get paid, it's not the greatest case for me or my clients, but it's going to be this, this case will actually get cited by a lot of other cases moving forward because the court found that there was all of the trimmings of a PLSRA securities fraud through an ICO offering.
Oh, so this is basically like the opposite of my concern with Ripple, where, a person, the plaintiff, it probably should not have been suing to kind of, screw with the future of the law. This is the opposite of that. This ICO was so fraudulent and so easy for you to win the case that this works in the favor to fight against other ICOs that are scammy.
Exactly. And now the case law is established, and I'll just hit the highlights of what the judge actually said. I mean, just the highlights are basically that the court actually found that, I'm just skimming down here. that the ICO that Monkey Capital ran had met all of the basic elements of the PLSRA fraud, which means that there was a violation of the Securities Act of 1933, which meant that there was an offering of an investment contract. Even though the investment was made in crypto, there was an investment of money. There was a common enterprise with the expectation of profits to come solely from the efforts of others. And this is important because the investment money and everything coming in was just based on the person running the ICO saying the value of the tokens are going to go up. So everyone is going to start citing this, and Stephen Pauly, another regular on the show,
Well, actually, Paulie's only been on the show that one time. I do want to get him back.
Okay, but he steals my thunder a lot. He's a lot more eloquent than I am, so I'm better looking, but he's more eloquent. So it depends what you like. But at the end of the day, this is the opposite of your Ripple argument. The court and everyone's going to start citing to this, saying that an ICO is a violation of the 1933 Securities Acts, Section 12 and Section 5.
All right, cool.
So, David, real quick, I've got a question for you. Nathan and I, as an exercise, created an ERC20 token called, if you know Nathan Ho, you know that he's a very good friend of mine, very competent guy. Adela's laughing because she knows what's coming. We created the Ho token, Nathan Ho. We created the Ho token. Its symbol is actually HOT, H-O-T. Plural of Ho tokens are hotties. We made
This is why, I'm going to be happy that Jason just cut out once again.
Did I?
Yeah.
You did.
So, once again, the government is fucking with my internet.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you want to discuss hotties, I mean, how much trouble do you want us to get in right now? I mean,
Listen,
the number one request on this show is for Sasha to get more airtime in full.
I know, that's pretty sick, actually.
All right, JJ, I have David for another minute. You know what? Let's not talk about.
My question for David is, David, did I just do an ICO when Nathan and I released 30 million Ho tokens on the world? Did we do an ICO?
Are they an ERC20?
Yes, they are.
Did you profit from them?
Oh, hell no. We haven't made a dime.
Who collected, or who did you tell about these ERC20 tokens?
I told Adela. Look at her.
Adela, did you pick up some of these tokens?
Sorry, what? I can't hear you guys.
Did you get some of these tokens? Do you have hotties?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have hotties?
Adela's going to plead a fifth on this one.
So I actually have a question for David. It's a really important one. So about your show tonight, we're definitely going to need some more details on that. I'm really excited to watch it.
All right, I'm gonna play the trailer real quick.
What is your preferred pronoun? You had so much makeup on for your last appearance.
Damn! Oh,
first of all, I was sweating so badly. They constantly were reapplying the makeup.
All right, this is only this is only 35 seconds.
Hit play.
I'm gonna go ahead and play your promo, and then I'm gonna disagree with you in the 5 seconds where you speak.
The revolution?
Bitcoin is a religion.
You're talking about taking down governments.
Do you believe in God? He architected it that way because it has.
Who is this guy, by the way?
No idea.
It's fundamentally one of the most important.
Well, that's Roger.
History of humankind. Most of the cryptocurrency, just like
that's David.
Up 1% controls 99% of it. If they decided to liquidate their holdings in one day, it would drop the value of Bitcoin to next to it. And there's no type of regulation stopping them at the moment from doing that.
Wow.
Okay, so this is an hour special on CNBC at 6 o'clock tonight. Tone, what I say that was wrong?
I don't believe that 1% controls 99% of Bitcoin.
Can you give me a plus or minus 5%?
I would go maybe 10 to 20%.
Okay. Well, let me explain to you why you're wrong. So, as Main Street came in during the peak, those people never are going to crack the 1%. So the more people that come in, the less people that are in the 1%. if people like want to argue, I think Chain Analysis and Credit Suisse, they did an analysis that like 4% of all the addresses hold 99%.
Yeah, but Jason, this is I deal with this. I deal with this insanity all the time at conferences. You can't do this kind of analysis for two reasons. One, many addresses hold Bitcoin for lots and lots of thousands of tens of thousands of people. Another reason why.
Wait, I'm agreeing with you.
Like another reason why this analysis is always flawed is because Bitcoin public keys are always created. And like 99% of all Bitcoin public keys are holding dust. And these statistics include them as individual users.
Wait. Hold on. I've been monitoring the troll box over here.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that Brian Fenton is available.
Oh God, I have shit to do also. All right, let me get Brian Fenton in here.
Isn't it Bruce?
Y'all gonna make
of course it is.
Y'all gonna make me lose my job. I'm gonna need to get a
I know, me too.
Yeah.
You have a job?
You know, y'all gonna make me lose my job.
All right, we're gonna say goodbye to David. We're gonna get Fenton in here for a few minutes, and let me get the link again.
Wait, while you're getting Bruce on, because I'll say hi to Bruce and leave.
All right. I'm gonna do that real quick right now. I'm not doing screen share.
But the show is basically a bunch of people arguing about the religion of Bitcoin, and me and the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, arguing against it. There's gonna be something so wrong that me and the Wolf of Wall Street are on the same side.
What you have to remember is that I created the world's first Bitcoin religion based on the fact that people thought, and it's arguable that it is a religion, IRS recognized 501c6 designated religion based on Bitcoin.
So that's Jason, I did this interview 5 months ago. I brought that up. I'm sure it didn't make the final show because they took some guy named Crypto Nick or Crypto Kid who I'd never heard of. And he's walking around with like hands and paws, living in like a treehouse.
Wait, they put a furry on?
They put a furry on. But at the end of the day, it's Melissa Lee, and the Fast Money is one of the biggest pumping shows of crypto. So I thought it was going to be a lot more positive, and they were going to paint me more in the negative light. Tone and I agree. I think people who do the analysis on just looking at crypto addresses is wrong, but you'll never convince me that there isn't a small minority who controls 99%.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But David, here's the thing, right? They don't actually control Bitcoin. They're rich, and they don't get to, because Bitcoin is not POS like Ethereum is going to be. They don't get to profit from holding Bitcoin. All they can do is sell it or spend it. So it's the way. It's the way safe.
It's the only question. Don't argue another point.
No, but like they don't control. Like no matter how much Bitcoin you have, like you're only gonna have control of a handful of nodes that are useful to the ecosystem.
Bruce is asking for a link.
Oh yeah, I already sent him the link. Bruce has the link on Twitter and on Telegram.
But Tone, you agree with the fact that a very small percentage owns most of the Bitcoin that's available at the moment.
Okay, so yes, I agree with that. Here's my rebuttal. A, it doesn't matter. And B, it's the way Saifedean says. I don't care which other kid, how much toys another kid has, as long as he doesn't have the ability to use his toys to steal my toys.
Okay, I don't disagree with that, but now let's just talk about valuation, because you already agree with me on the premise that 1% controls. Second question. If the Winklevi liquidated all of their Bitcoin right now, would that take the market and tear it under $1,000 of Bitcoin?
It would.
Actually, it depends on where they liquidate it.
They liquidate on Gemini, Poloniex, Bittrex, and Kraken.
Oh, hold on. Tone's gone to the phone.
Bruce wants on to yell at Jason some more.
Listen, Bruce and I had a fantastic discussion while I was in Panama. And I respect Bruce. He and I don't see eye to eye on everything, but that's the wonderful thing about discourse.
Well, the only reason I'm staying on is because Bruce and I agreed on 2 things last week, and it was like 2 times in a row Bruce and I agreed on something. I'm sure Bruce disagrees with everything I say on CNBC tonight.
Sorry guys, I was on a call and that wasn't Bruce. I know.
We're all so excited.
I'm waiting for him to. Oh wait, is he? Why does it say there's one attendee? What's going on here?
I don't know.
But I don't see his name. Hold on.
But my point being is, if the whales decided the whales could crash the price of Bitcoin, I think they can crash it closer to a couple of bucks.
So what?
That's the only point I made, was that there's a limited concentration of ownership in Bitcoin, and that if they all sold at once, they would crash the price of Bitcoin.
Okay, fine. But Bitcoin is by far the most decentralized crypto asset we have.
That's not what we were discussing.
I know. And if they do that, they can only do that once.
Yes.
Right. And yes, this is
sometimes you don't have to disagree with people. You could just agree with them.
Sure, but David, I don't understand. But I don't understand what the problem is there. Like you see a problem here, I don't.
I don't see a problem. Think of when the stock market crashes. You know, if a stock goes down and everyone, for the wrong reasons, because it's Black Monday or whatever, and they go down irrationally, and the company
try to keep your racism to a check here, David. I mean, come on.
What was that?
Right. No, but what's the point, right? Like, what is the point of bringing that up? Like, what does it benefit? Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
see, unlike your show, I had to be respectful because I want to be on national TV a lot. So when they asked me a question, I have to answer the question they asked me, and you could tell they asked me a specific question because the next point was to hit Roger with my answer. So I said concentration of ownership could lead to manipulation in prices. They said, well, Roger, you are one of the people who are believed to be in that concentration of ownership, and there are people who accuse you of manipulating the price of Bitcoin, which, by the way, I believe is true.
Hey, Sasha, you got a guest behind you.
Oh. I think I gotta go, guys. But thank you so much, and I'll watch Bruce later.
For some reason, like I can't get Bruce Fenton into the stream. I don't know why. Like usually, like they come up and I add you guys in. I don't know if that's something he's doing.
Jason, tell him it's God. It's either God or the government.
Listen, every time I bring up the 3D printed gun parts, my internet shuts down. Just saying.
Okay, so everybody watch the show tonight. Follow me on Twitter. I need to be more famous. Nobody loves David as much as David.
That's true. That's very true.
That's gonna be my tagline.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not sure why. I mean, I'm assuming because I get like, I'm in the Zoom live cast and I usually get attendees that I can promote to be panelists, but like his name isn't showing up. So I've had Bruce on this system before, so I have no idea.
See you guys next week, or I guess with Marty whenever we're doing that on Friday.
Yeah, I'm doing too many shows, and I gotta start playing a conference. I have no idea how I'm gonna do all that. Hey guys, so it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to get Bruce Fenton this time. We will. I don't know. I mean, I can get him on the phone. I can ask him to call me. We can.
No. Here's what I'll say. Look, I'll fire up my own machine. Bruce and I can talk. That's fine. I can get him on. We can do a YouTube deal. But just give me a second. I have to print a trigger for my toy gun. I'm gonna get working on that.
I gotta go in a sec too, guys.
Yeah, actually, and me too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
We could double up this week if you guys want.
You know what? On Friday we can line up Bruce and continue this discussion because we're already trying to line up Michael Turpin to talk about his case.
Yeah, I asked him and he said he would be happy to come on. Sure.
All right, so let's do that Friday. So we'll get Bruce on for Friday, and we'll get Michael Turpin on for Friday as well as separate guests for their respective projects. So let's do it that way. And we should probably call it a day. It's already been 3 hours, for God's sakes.
Oh my God.
And people think we're supposed to have jobs, but
just to state, I just offered in the troll box to set up a show for Bruce today, or that he can come on later. And the troll box is accusing you, Tone, of all kinds of things, because once Bruce is ready to come on, you're shutting down the show. They think it's pretty shady.
Well, I can't get him on because like I see him and like he comes in to, he clicks the link, but I can't bring him on to talk. I don't know. I've done it before. We'll get Bruce on. We'll do another show. It's already been 3 hours, guys. We'll try and line him up for Friday. We'll do it a little more coordinated. And that's it.
Here, Bruce says, Tone, you have my name and contact info, and I've been trying to get on for 2 hours. Dude, really?
Well, I'm in the middle.
What the fuck, Tone?
I don't have a producer. I'm in the middle of a show. I don't pay attention to everyone that's texting me.
What is going on, right? You guys need to calm down, okay?
Deep breath.
I'm trolling Tone.
Yes. Anyway, I just want to, before I go, I just want to do a quick shout out. If you guys see the t-shirt that I'm wearing, I just want to do a quick shout out for Josie, who hooked me up with this t-shirt, graphic designer, and she was out there at the conference in Chicago. I thought there were pictures. I guess they're on her Twitter. There it is. That's from the conference out in Chicago. So shout out for the t-shirt. Thank you.
Oh my God. Her stuff is really cool.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Guys, have a great day.
Yeah. Bye, Manny.
Bye, Manny.
Bye, Maddie.
Be well.
And because I am a total shill without a, oh, let me not do that. Actually, I don't know. Because I'm a total shill without an ICO. If you guys like this show and you would like to keep supporting this show, please check out the affiliate section of tonebase.com. And if you have a need for any of these products or services, including doing your Amazon shopping, please click on these links first and go through the affiliate programs. And that's one way you can support without actually having to pay me anything at any point. So there you go. All right, that's it. That's it. We're down to 3. Oh man, like my phone's been blowing up this whole time. I can't pay attention to actual, useful advice through the show and pay attention to everyone that's texting me at the same time. So it's the best I can do. Unfortunately,
Thanks, Tone, you did great.
Thank you.
We'll hopefully be on later.
Yeah, no, but listen, those are really good security discussions on like what is and isn't a security based on how it's being promoted and how it's being shilled. So that's, I mean, I know I'm learning a lot, maybe a little too much. Like Adela said, I take it too far. But yes, thank you very much, guys. And we will try to get Bruce Fenton on the next one along with other guests.
All right, be well, Tone. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Bitcoin Law Review. Bye, guys.